on strategic planning today. So, Dr. Pace.
Good afternoon, members of the board. We appreciate this opportunity to come to you today and give you an update on where we are in terms of progress toward meeting our strategic plan goals and initiatives. At the same time, this is our opportunity to seek feedback from you about the progress that we're making, ways that you'd want to accelerate it, and potentially things that we'd want to consider as we start our budget planning for the upcoming school year, believe it or not, at our February the 6th workshop. Because from the very beginning, we've said that our plan was truly going to drive our work, and that we want to align our resources, both our time, our money, and our people, with these goals and strategies that the board and the staff have collectively prioritized. So today, rather than me do all of the talking, I'm going to let Dr. Fritz and members of the team come forward who own each goal and strategy to give you a quick update. We're obviously not going to go through everything that's in these very comprehensive packets. They are posted on the website for the community to review. I've asked the team to pick out some highlights of things that they think are most significant as we move forward, and then certainly the board can ask additional questions if you want more information or discussion about specific strategies and goals.
I got it. For housekeeping, Mr. Chairman, I just have a brief, first off, I think our team's doing great. I first want to point that out. But from a housekeeping perspective, insofar as what we're going to go through today, if there's topics, and I apologize, I didn't get a chance to talk to you prior to this, but there is something I'd like to bring up at some point. You want me to wait till later, or you want to go through this with your team? I mean, it's your call. How do you want to handle Q&A or topics we might be interested in addressing? It's up to you.
Mr. Chair, do you have a preference?
I think we should let the staff go through there. If we have specific questions, I think we've always allowed ourselves to ask specific questions. Right. But if it's something new, maybe hold off to the
okay, that's fine. And this is scheduled to go till our board meeting, till 5:30?
No, I think 4.
Construction workshop, facilities workshop, I'm sorry, at 4 o'clock.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all.
Okay.
So maybe we'll run out of time and you won't have time to ask your questions. That's what our goal is today, team.
Maybe it's not.
Did you say something, Mr. Chairman? I was going to say something.
Why do we have a gap?
We were all thinking, and I thought I'd just focus on it.
It's not in there.
Okay. All right, goal 1, academic success. We have our 3 assistant superintendents who will go through some of the highlights, and then other team members as well who will be contributing. Okay.
We're going to start with literacy board, but as we go through this process, I want to remind you a little bit about the strategic plan. Every goal has a cabinet member who is a leader, and every strategy either has a cabinet member or a member of the cabinet member's staff, so that all strategies and goals are monitored by someone at the district office. So we're going to start off with literacy, and that's going to be Dr. Respis.
Okay, good afternoon. As Dr. Pace said, there were a lot of things we could have gone over with you this afternoon. We highlighted some things and you'll see a pattern as we go across. We kind of start from high level, district level, and then we kind of get smaller to get more granular through it. So first of all, we want to talk about iReady Diagnostic 2, and you'll see that in your planning sheets there. We just finished Diagnostic 2 at the end of December, and you will see that the scores are fairly commensurate with some growth and from Diagnostic 1. And you'll see that they are fairly commensurate and show some growth if you go diagonally through also. I want to call your attention to the fact that Diagnostic 1 was everyone we had at the beginning of the school year. Diagnostic 2 includes everyone new to our district. We got several students, an influx from hurricane-ravaged states and counties and territories. So that number is inclusive, and you'll notice that we maintained. So we were actually, that is a good way to look at that. Yes, sir.
Is this inclusive of charter schools, or charter schools aren't included in this?
The charter schools are not included.
Thank you.
Correct.
Got it.
Okay.
And I've got another question.
Yes, sir.
Are we monitoring charter school progress to see if they're keeping pace with us or beating us?
Not relative to iReady, sir.
Okay.
No.
They have their own assessments forms. Many of them use NWEA or other assessments. We do learning cycle visits there. Sonia continues to meet and support them, but we don't have access to their data on a regular basis.
Is NWEA better aligned now than it used to be?
I don't.
Because it was considered to not really be a corollary about a year or two, and some of them still continue to use it despite that, and I don't know if it's kept up or not.
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, I do want to bring your attention that with iReady, it does have a standard error of measurement of a plus or a -3 on either way. All right. Also, I want to talk to you about that, the 3 things I'm going to go over on iReady and next our learning cycle data and subgroup data. Those are progress monitoring tools, that we use throughout the year, and they support our work in our learning cycles so that we can make real-time decisions and assist our schools at the time of need, wherever need be. So when we go down to our learning cycle data, this is something that, and as you go through on the next with your bullet points throughout, you will see some of our learning cycle data in there. I want to tell you a little bit, yes sir, our learning cycle is something that the 3 of us and our teams are very proud of. We redesigned under Dr. Pace and Dr. Fritz's leadership how our learning cycle visits go. And we go out this year and we go into every classroom. And from the data points, with our reflective visit tool, we discern the data points from that, and then we determine where they need assistance, along with our talking to them, the qualitative data that we get from them, having met with them and the principal. Do you want to add?
I just wanted to add, that we were excited because we've developed the tool to be K-12, so consistency through all grade levels, and it's really focused on the standards and instructional practices that align to our instructional framework that we're using for evaluation. So those 2 pieces, I think, have really
So
made it
if we're looking at this from and I appreciate that from a K-12 perspective, historically, kids are coming out of 5th grade in pretty good shape, and then there's a drop-off in 6th grade. Is that still the case typically? And or if it is, are we closing that gap?
According to the iReady data, that some of that drop is still present. But the learning cycle data, those are measuring classroom practices. So no, we don't see the same. We don't see that difference between elementary and middle school.
So I want to clarify the difference between learning cycle, the way we're doing it now, and the way we've done it in the past, and because I think that really speaks to the way this team has changed their approach. Learning cycle, when we go out to a school and we go into classrooms, we're providing real-time support. What ends up happening is once we go out and we collect our data, every week the assistant superintendents are meeting with our teams to talk about individual schools. Every 3 weeks they meet with the executive directors and EOL, ESE, and every cycle, which is what we call everybody meets and debriefs with me. I turn around and I debrief with the superintendent. The superintendent and I gauge our visits based on what we hear for the learning cycle, and we have all that information. So we know where classrooms are strong, where they're not strong, and that's a difference than the approach what we've done in the past. What we've done is we've gone out, and I'm not saying it was a bad way of doing it, but it wasn't as comprehensive. We would go out, we would walk a school, we would give them an action plan, and then they wouldn't hear from us again until we came back in 3 or 4 weeks. Now, if we're going out to a school and there's a concern, we're going back to that school. We're providing the support. If the support is in mathematics and they need that support, we will be there. There are schools that we're in every week because they require that support. So that's just a difference when we use the terminology learning cycle compared to what we've done in the past. It's to provide support more in real time.
Understand, and I appreciate the narrative very much, and understand, well, while I'm asking questions, it's not an effort to be critical as much as I've got great confidence and faith in this team and everybody in the room, but obviously I know too much about this, clearly, and so I'm going to ask some very pointed questions as it comes up.
Well, it's good. We want that reflective process. Honestly, that's how we get better.
So just to underscore the point of how we have gotten into more classrooms this year, and on your bullet points you will see that the total number of classrooms visited thus far is over 3,200, whereas in last year the entire total was almost 2,900, just shy of that, a little over 2,800 actually. So we have gotten into, just in half a year, way more. So we're very, very pleased about that. In addition to that, I want to remind you, we have put a huge emphasis on our ELL task force, and we have those at every school in some way, shape, or form. The ELL is a factor in looking at them. We had Dr. Lewis Cruz came last summer, and he spoke to the administrative team at the admin welcome back and really charged all of us to do that, and we have done that. They, in fact, each principal had to report who the members were to Dr. Straker, because each school improvement plan has the goal relative to ELL and with ESE. And I want to highlight also for you that one of the strategies for ELL students is to use a dictionary, a bilingual dictionary. And through the support that shows you beyond the four walls of Osceola, School District of Osceola, we have business partners who have assisted with helping us purchase. St. Cloud, the City of St. Cloud and Celebration Foundation have given monetary support toward getting this
So
to
do we
help
have
us.
enough for the students who need it? There's always one
We will
available?
now, yes.
Great.
Yes, those are, yes, we're in the process of working with that, and special programs under Leslie Campbell has assisted us with that.
That's terrific, thank you.
So wonderful. So I'm
One
going
of the
to,
things that we discovered as we began really digging into the ELL challenge and the dictionary issue was that while a lot of our schools had dictionaries, they were kept in a closet in preparation for testing. And so we have really emphasized the fact that those dictionaries need to be in kids' hands to accommodate the learning, not just the testing. And so that is something that we've discovered that's been very, very beneficial and a pretty easy fix to help our students achieve greater success.
the last thing I want to say that goes along with each of ours is we are in Learning Cycle 5 right now, and in Learning Cycle 5, we visit every single school, every single classroom.
Learning cycle 5 out of how many total?
We will have probably, we're going to see how many we for sure have. They last about a month, so we'll probably get through Learning Cycle 7.
Yeah,
with all the
time of
testing.
Yes.
we won't be as-
Yes.
7 cycles, we're number 5.
Probably, that's what I
And
anticipate.
if I just
yeah.
can expand on
Please.
that, so the very first learning cycle that we did is very reminiscent to what we're in now. So learning cycle 1, we were in every school, nearly every classroom, and then this is sort of our mid-year data, and we're doing the same thing. So those months in between were more targeted support in schools and classrooms for tiered support.
So it's like, so is learning cycle similar to the curriculum mapping where right now you're in learning cycle 5, let's say, at school A. If you go to another elementary school, they're going over they're at the same point also?
They are, typically.
Okay.
That's one of the data points that you'll see here on the other page is that 89% of the ELL classrooms were following the curriculum unit plans and 92% were on pace. So that is something that the team is constantly monitoring throughout this learning cycle.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I'll turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Brennan.
Thank you. So we'll kind of move on to strategy 1B and just talking about sort of the same initiatives, but in terms of ensuring high levels of mathematics achievements for all of our students. And I just want to highlight a few kind of key top-level things. First of all, we have introduced to all of you the K-12 math plan, our first ever K-12 math plan. We presented that, and there are the 6 components of that math plan. So again, a real focus on math instruction. Give me that. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'll do that for you.
I just was going to tell. This is not the pages number. Yeah, page 5. Sorry.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So again, a real focus on curriculum, what should be taught, the instruction, how we should be teaching it, how the district is going to support it, the progression. So many of the things we've been talking about, but specifically geared towards our math students and our math classes. That implementation is, of course, ongoing.
Dr. Renner,
Yes, sir.
and I don't know if you were going there, but where did this 28 number come from? It really sticks out there. And do we really believe we're going to have 47 instead of 28?
You're talking about in the progress
Last
report, the
year.
iReady data?
Seventh
Yeah, we were
grade.
good.
Yeah, so I can explain that. So in 7th grade, there are 2 regular math classes. There's a regular math class, and then there's an advanced class. The difference in the standards between those 2 courses is stark. Really, the 7th grade advanced class is the same curriculum as the 8th grade regular. It's pre-algebra.
Right.
Okay. So the state has given the option of districts for that 7th grade advance to take either the 7th grade FSA or the 8th grade FSA. And for the past 2 years, we have opted as a district to allow them the opportunity to challenge for the 8th grade test because we feel it's going to better prepare them for algebra moving forward.
Okay.
So those data results don't show there.
That's correct. So
They show
when you
it.
see 7th grade right there is our our basic regular class. And it's, obviously lower than our iReady, because our iReady encapsulates all
Okay.
of our 7th grade students.
So those 7th grade students who are taking a pre-algebra FSA, are they taking the regular 7th grade FSA in 6th grade?
No, the state only allows
They want
for
us
us
to do that.
that 7th grade because of the difference in the standards. That is the only grade level where they allow us to make that differentiation.
So the cohort group that's taking the pre-algebra FSA, what's our pass rate for those kids? 88, 90, 95%?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can get the information.
Well, I know that the 8th grade algebra pass rate is extremely high. So I would think there'd be a direct correlation with that 7th grade pass rate also.
I believe it is, but I don't have the numbers.
No,
right
I
now.
understand that. Thank you.
But-
Good catch, Ricky.
Yeah, very good, very good. So, one of the things I just want to say about the math plan, and then we'll look more at that data, is just that we have really had an emphasis on the two pieces that we talked about even with the literacy, and that is a focus on standards-based instruction, what they should be teaching, as well as a student-centered, highly inclusive instructional strategy. So trying to help teachers make that shift to having students talking about math, discussing math. That's our challenge that we continue to keep working on. So not sort of the traditional, what we've seen in the past, kind of math courses.
I'm gonna go back to the elementary portion on the math here. I'm looking at these numbers. How do we get those numbers up into the 70s? I mean, and I know that we've identified math as a challenge area. I'm looking at where we are, but let's take the 3rd grade group that got 56 last year. We're looking at them getting 58 this year. I just would like to think that we can make a bigger jump than that. I don't know if it's unrealistic or realistic, but, I don't know how you do. I mean, it's like the 4th graders that got 55 last year, that cohort group, we're looking at keeping them at 55. I'm just, why not, find a way to really accelerate? And I don't know if it's just, if it's easier said than done. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an educator, but I just would like to think that we can do much better.
Well, this is part of the standards-based instruction that we're pushing throughout with the instructional shifts, and that is something that through our reflective visit tool, we are monitoring very clearly of how we are making those shifts within Osceola County. And it comes with the focus, the coherence map, making sure that we're focusing on those going deeper on those skills at a younger age prior to 3rd and 4th grade. So it starts earlier on than just 3rd and 4th grade, and we are really pushing that.
Yeah, but when we got a 4th grade group right now at 55, and you're looking at that group in 5th grade, this year getting to 55, I'd like to think that that would be a bigger number from year A to year B.
And we do too.
Okay.
And it is, there is that standard deviation in there, but at the same time, it still isn't up to where we expect it to be. And so we have, through the math plan and the strategies that we are, and the PD, and all of those types of supports that we are providing and attaching the demonstration lessons, we think we're on the right path.
One of the other things we're really focused on, I'm sorry.
I was going to say that early intervention is extremely important. There's been a big emphasis over the last year in Dr. Respice's shop to do VPK to grade 2. Those are 4 years of untested time that we don't have any other time during our K-12 experience. So to re-look at what we're doing VPK to grade 2 is critical. This summer we had our very first kindergarten academy. We brought all our kindergarten teachers, and unlike in the past where all the emphasis has only been on ELA, there's been a strong push towards mathematics. And if you recall back on our K-12 math plan, there is a lot of work on that, but there is no silver bullet. I'm going to tell you, this will be one over time as our folks get to be better at teaching mathematics and we start pushing mathematics down on an earlier age. There's no reason VPK kids cannot start working with numbers, but that's not been the emphasis. And so it's going to take some time to make that all.
Interestingly, we just had our ESET 2 on last Friday, and we kind of had a focus on math, and we had our guest speaker who spoke to the fact that we have to allow our kids, especially at the elementary level, to struggle, to problem solve it through themselves and not just automatically go to trying to teach them just,
The algorithm.
The algorithm, yes, thank you. And so I think that's the shift that we're trying to make, is that it's okay to let kids struggle through but figure out on their own how they're going to resolve these issues with the math. And that's how we get stronger and better at it, is not just thinking we're going to, as she said, don't want to swoop in and try to save them and give
No, I
them the
understand.
answer.
And I appreciate, we want to be realistic, but I guess the next question I would have as it relates to this, and I don't know the answer to this either, have we looked at the data from the perspective of, okay, is there a district out there that's taking that third grade or fourth grade group and it's somehow, and I don't know how, being able to make a real leap? And I don't know if there is, and if there is, let's find out what they're doing. I mean,
One of the things that we have done very conscientiously and very intentionally is to work with teachers like Amy and Michael Miller from Kissimmee Elementary School, who have made those kinds of games there to find out what it is that they were doing that was working. They orchestrated and coordinated with our PD folks and others the ESET conference on Friday with that focus on math. And we're using the same curriculum, 10 marks, that they were using at Kissimmee Elementary as a supplemental tool in 12 of our schools to see that pilot. But it really comes down to a fundamental effort to build capacity of our teachers to better understand and be able to teach the math, because that's where you're going to get the gains from your students. But there is no quick fix. There is no silver bullet. It's a matter of learning from the best practices and continuing to develop that and keeping us moving forward. The most important thing is that we don't move backwards, but that we're moving in the right direction, and I think you see that, we're making progress.
so from professional development and a capacity perspective, I've asked this 10 different ways from 10 different administrations since I've been here. Are we developing a professional development library where people like Amy and Mike, like the Millers, we're going into their classroom and we're just recording what they're doing, and then we're playing that, we're making that available?
Yes.
Okay.
We took your suggestion very seriously. It's actually in here that we're doing that. We're creating
Every
video clips.
teacher, that 10 marks is just a curriculum. That's not a silver bullet either. It's good teaching. That makes the difference in test scores. But as we implemented that in our 12 schools, we mandated that those teachers that are going to utilize that curriculum go spend time in Mr. Miller's classroom. And I personally have spent 2.5 hours in his classroom.
Just a quick comment, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to go ahead and assume that in every classroom, you're going to have students that are exceeding the benchmarks and some that aren't, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to go further one more step and say, we know who those students are. So there can also be some kind of focused efforts on some of these students, correct?
Absolutely.
And I'm going to go one more step further and say a lot of those efforts could be collaborative, not just with what our resources are, with our PLCs and teachers and how to handle those particular situations, but some community input in that, in terms of one of the things that I've read on is that parents have a lot to do with, if you were to go ahead and just survey and say, okay, let me get these random students that are doing very well and aren't, and you look at some factors, is there anything that we could do to work with parents in terms of helping those students that are struggling and just to, foster some kind of cultural interest, I would say, household identity with wanting to do well in mathematics, because I know that there's a lot of that. I specifically frustrated when I hear the term, I'm just not good at math. That doesn't exist.
It's genetic.
It's amazing how that's the fallback for some, and how early is this happening for some of our students?
It's a very good point, Mr. Soto. We've primarily focused our parental involvement efforts through our title offices on literacy. That's just been kind of the mainstay, but I think that's a great suggestion for us to try to diversify some of the work that we're doing in that program.
Just a thought. That's
That was a good one. Very good. So I think if I can just point out, again, we have that high-level data, the K-8 progress monitoring tool, we're using the iReady, but we also have our learning cycle sort of qualitative data that we have been collecting. So just to point out there on the next page, sorry, I'm looking at page 6 in your packet, focused on just the number of math classrooms that we have visited this year, 899. That was as of December, so I guarantee you it's more than that now. And you'll see that we're visiting lots of classrooms. One of the things I think also is going to be very helpful is our work on proficiency scales. So you can see there that we're seeing 33% of our math classrooms utilizing proficiency scales. 13% of our students are using the scale. The scale is how the student knows where they're at in the learning of whatever the standard is, and how that, well, they understand what's expected. And so teachers are starting to get more comfortable with that. We need to get them in the hands of students so that they really can track and measure their own progress. Also, a really big emphasis, we've seen 37% of our classrooms have students engaged in small groups, pairs, or station rotations. We know that we need to change our instructional practices, that we can't just have them in rows, lecturing, taking notes, kind of maybe some of the ways that we all went to school, that we need to change up some of that. And so we're starting to see, again, a shift in that as we go into the math classrooms. And you'll also see on that page, and then continuing on, just some of the professional development efforts that we've already mentioned here. You kind of will see it broken down at elementary, middle, and high school. Again, a real focus on either content, trying to help teachers strengthen their content abilities. So we're working on certification classes for our elementary, middle school folks. Maybe they want to get certified, 5-9, that math certification.
Or 612.
Or 612. So we have both of those classes going on to try to help strengthen their math abilities, as well as a lot of PD on what kind of instructional practices are more effective with kids. So,
Dr. Reinhardt,
Yes,
where
sir.
do you guys want us to be with regard to the proficiency scales and the engagement taking place? I know the ultimate number, of course, but as we're tracking our progress and our movement in this area, do you look at these numbers, 33 and 37, as success? Do you see them as we're nowhere near where we expected to be at this point in time? We have a goal of being at X by this point in time at the end of the year. Where are we tracking? How do I measure that today?
Sure. I would say that is not where we want to be, but we've made great progress as we look back to where we were a year ago. And so we're on that journey. I would want to see, honestly, probably closer to 100% of all of our classrooms using proficiency scales. But we're not there yet, obviously, so we're on that journey. In terms of students engaged in small groups, pairs, or station rotations, I don't think that that's necessarily going to go to that kind of number. It should be larger than that. What we want to see is a lot of diversity. So different lessons, different topics require a different format. There's nothing wrong with lecture, but when we lecture for 50 straight minutes and kids never engage in the mathematics, that's what the problem is. So I want to see a lot of variety here. And so we tried to just simplify it, obviously for the bullet points, but we really actually try to look and see, are we seeing a variety in all of our classrooms? Can I go in at different times and see different things? That's really the measure I'm looking for.
One of the challenges that we ran into with proficiency scales is that we were getting more compliance after we first rolled this out last year, but they weren't really quality and they weren't really driving the instruction or helping kids to assess where they were with learning. So we actually slowed down a little bit and went back to do some additional pre-D, some additional modeling, some additional demonstration of how to use those with quality. So our goal by the end of the year would be to get to about 50% of them using, and then to continue to amp that up.
Okay. And that's 50% for the staff. What about for the students?
It's going to be less than that. I would say probably more a third of the students as we get to that idea of quality. But the real magic, and the reason why we're emphasizing proficiency scales is because the research says this is a really high impact, high yield strategy, but primarily when kids are using it to track their progress.
Right. And I've seen it firsthand on some of the reflective visits I've done with you guys in the past, and seeing when the kids are doing that and being able to articulate, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm learning, this is where I need to be, this is what I'm trying to bridge the gap on. It's extremely powerful to see them take ownership of that piece and the roadmap that they're trying to build for themselves to get to the point of proficiencies.
How does Khan Academy plug into this?
So Khan is a resource that is linked up with the College Board. And so we take our students who have had the PSAT or the SAT, and they create accounts based on the data, the specific data from their test results. And then it actually links for them exactly what are your deficiencies, what are your weaknesses, where are the areas that you really need to work on, and it provides them a very prescriptive way of improving their score.
Let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
What online tools are we utilizing where the students can use them at home across K-12 similar to Khan? I don't know if there is something, I don't know.
Khan's probably the most reliable and valid, freest, and it's free, which is always nice. But it's probably the most powerful assessment or tutoring program that we have for students in high school anyway.
Okay. So there's nothing.
It's not a
really-
K-12,
There's
but-
nothing.
Yeah, it's
There's
not
not really a
K-12.
K-8 piece that's available. That's reliable also.
And the power of Khan Academy is helping to boost those SAT scores for both concordant scores to meet graduation requirements for our students, but then also to help improve their college admission rates. And it gives kids a sense of, I can be successful, even though I didn't necessarily know I could.
That's absolutely correct. It could be used beyond just college entrance exam preparation. It's actually a very good self-learning tool. And it's also very good for
That's true.
math clubs, preparation,
Yeah.
just general curiosity, you know.
I just always wanted
I
to
have
learn.
fun using it with my kids when they were in
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Just because.
The beauty of the free piece that Dr. Fritz is talking about is it actually links to their actual data, but yeah, you're right, there are so
That's-
many
yeah.
pieces that I'm
Free is
just
good.
always curious.
Free
Yeah.
is good.
It's free and it's a, I mean, if you understand the
quality.
founder's philosophy and why he created this, you would see that it's really a great resource.
And would you say, it's fair to say that teachers across the district have favorites that they use? I mean, I was with my daughter on a road trip a couple weeks ago, and she's in 6th grade. I think she's in one of the higher math classes. I don't know exactly, but she was doing some geometry thing. And she was mad because the kids were texting her, it was messing her up on her points or something. She couldn't finish or whatever.
Oh.
But I mean, what I'm saying, or my question is, do we have a geometry app that we're focusing on district-wide? Or do we have an elementary math app that we push district-wide? Or do we allow teachers, is there?
Most of our core textbooks have online components, so
So
she
that's
was
probably
working-
what she was using?
She was probably
Of course,
working
I was
with her core.
encouraging her to use it.
Yeah.
But actually knowing where it came from, different. you know.
I wouldn't be surprised if she actually was on Math Nation, which is
So,
which is also a free resource. And
Okay.
It's
The
very-
University of Florida.
It's from the University of Florida, which you would
It sure would
appreciate.
have to be excellent.
Yeah.
Unlike the football team.
But that is for higher level. It's actually what they call it Math Nation now, because it used to be just Algebra Nation, and then a couple of years ago they added components for pre-algebra, algebra, and
Okay.
geometry. So that probably, I'm guessing, is.
But we have different schools across the district using different things, or we
Yeah,
try
we
to utilize the
try to
online
streamline
tools
that.
with the books.
We do of course have our adopted textbooks.
Yes, absolutely.
And
iReady.
iReady, I know that one.
For K through 8. And then in the secondary schools, primarily it's Khan and Math Nation is what our
Oh,
online
Math
tools are.
Nation.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's embedded in their resources that we give all of the teachers.
Gotcha.
through the-
It's not that teachers don't have options to use different resources, but for us, we're able to gear the professional development to a menu, and we like to use that terminology. These are the ones that we've endorsed that align with our curriculum, and that we can provide guidance and support on.
So to Jay's question, Math Nation is one of those things.
Correct.
yes.
And it's quality. And that's the benefit of what we put into those unit plans for them, because we know our resource teachers have gone out and
We
vetted
vetted
these
them.
things.
Okay.
To make sure that it's good quality for the kids.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, are we good with 1B? I'm gonna move on to 1C.
And move pretty quickly.
Okay.
While Jay's gone. No.
Yes. Oh, one. Okay, so lots to brag about in 1C. Very excited about our increase in strengthening our college pathways. As you all know, our graduation rate just recently came out, and we've increased by 4%, so we're up to 86.3%, and yes, thank you very much. Also positively to note, which I'm sure you already saw, was that our subgroup data, our ESE, our ELL, our free and reduced lunch, also are increasing. So not only are we helping kids, but we're providing access for all of our kids to be successful. And tying right along with that I want to highlight is that, again, the AP Honor Roll designation, which really goes right along with what we're seeing with our graduation data. We're providing access and success with our AP results. So when you look on page 8 of your packet, there's tons of data there that I won't read it all to you, but you'll see in terms of our AP exams, over the last 3 years, the trend, we've had a huge increase in the number of students taking AP exams, a 17% increase. We've also had a big increase of students who have scored and are being successful on the AP exam, scoring a 3 or higher on the AP exam. And that's actually, it's a 5-point-something% increase. It actually rounds up to a 6% increase that we're seeing. So our kids are being successful at more kids are taking AP exams, and more kids are being successful. And we're seeing that data also in terms of our subgroup data, that's also increasing. And that's why we got that AP honor roll designation. We're the only school district in the state of Florida to get that, because we've been able to show that we're moving all of our kids with those.
And we're doing a lot of things right. I mean, a lot of things are going in the right direction. We're doing a lot of things right. We still need to keep on reaching for a lot of those kids. As well as we're doing on the AP exams, we're still below 50% pass rate.
Yep. We can only,
And
Yep, we
so-
keep
and I
working
know
on
we're going in the right,
improving it.
and I know we're
Yes.
going in the right direction.
yeah.
So-
At no point do we want to say that's good enough. It's not good enough. We keep working on that. Something else I just want to point out is the support that you all have provided with our College Board contract and our SAT results. So when you look at the next page over, page 9, you'll see last year, we had an SAT day for our juniors and our at-risk seniors. And this year, this fall, we were able to offer an SAT school day for our 12th graders in October. So we had over 3,500 seniors took the SAT in October, and you'll see the results there who are meeting the college and career ready benchmarks. That's really our goal for our seniors. But we also wanted to do some comparative data for you. So we looked at the comparison of the 11th graders who took the SAT last year, and how did they score now that they took the SAT again as 12th graders. And we had 14% of those students showed over a 100-point growth or gain in their SAT score. So we had 2,716 students matched. 14% showed that kind of very large growth, and 59% of our students showed some sort of growth from their junior year to their senior year. So we know we can do better with that. We're continuing to work on how well the training is, again, aligned, so how well they're practicing, because we know students will improve those SAT scores if we have that intentional directed practice.
Are those data points, just a real quick question, are those data points that other districts have as well? I mean, they don't really mean a whole lot to me without some sort of comparison.
But the problem is, we don't have a way to share
Okay.
that data back and forth, and we will ask them, but they're
No, I understand. I was just wondering if that
No,
was some sort of.
it's a great question. We can get like state averages, we can get national averages.
From
but-
11th to 12th?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if we can get 11th, 12th. We can get how our 11th grade kids score compared to state and national. I don't know if we can.
No, because if we're saying, oh, we've seen this increase, without having some data to compare it to, we would.
Well, there aren't very many districts, you guys know, because you all pay for the contract, you sign that provide that opportunity for their students. So you don't see that a lot, where all their 11th graders, all their 12th graders get to take
I
that.
think
It's hard to get
Jay,
that comparative.
I think Clarence
Go ahead,
said.
no, go ahead.
The 14% that showed the 100-point growth and 59%, is the 14 in the 59, or are the total number of increases 73?
No, the 14 would be in the 59.
So-
Okay, good question.
I guess it seems like a lot of 41% that decreased.
And that's one of the reasons why we know we need to rethink the way we've been implementing CON, and we just recently have been able to get the CON dashboard so that we can actually monitor its use, because our goal would be that 100% of them get better.
And it kind of goes back to Ricky's point, being able to tell another district, but
And
that
we're
seems
not
surprising
investing.
to me that 41% did
Yeah.
not increase a point.
Absolutely.
Relative to getting the data, and Dr. Fritz, you make a good point, everybody wants to share, you can ask for it, but they may not share, I get that. But I've got to believe, though, that if our shiny new vice chairman of the Central Florida School Board Coalition brought up at a Central Florida Coalition meeting that next month we'd all like to have every district bring that data in, they would be more than happy to bring that data in so we actually could compare. That's number one. Number two.
Is it comparable when we offer it to everybody
Yeah.
in all the other districts?
No, and they may not, that's a great point, but meanwhile, whatever data we have is more than we got now. So,
Except we're offering it,
to everybody.
which means
And
you've got some people who would probably never, ever take it that are taking it.
Right, and we
versus
got other districts that aren't.
True.
No, but whatever we have, the next thing I want to say is,
Okay.
I appreciate that you recognize how supportive we've been in terms of, you bring that forward to us, we approved it. So now I'm tasked, bring us something else we can approve that will help kids. bring us the next
I
thing.
can do that, Mr. Wheeler.
Okay, to
I bet
everybody
in
out
this
there.
room could.
To everybody out there, we
can do
want
that.
nothing more than to have you come to this board and give us something we can approve that you can show us is going to help our kids. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely.
What about comparing the college readiness and these various benchmarks, 19% for reading and writing, 15% for math, comparing to surrounding districts as well? And how are we aligning and comparing that data to understand how we're tracking compared to our partners or competition in the region?
That is where we have to look back to the state and national averages, because they don't publish it by district unless we dig into everybody's websites. But the other cautionary point that I would say is that there are a number of districts now who are giving either the ACT or the SAT to all juniors, but very few are providing that same opportunity to all seniors, which means that your numbers can change in terms of you're not really comparing apples to apples. But we definitely want to bring back better data for you so that you know it's a worthwhile investment.
Right.
Because the return is in the pudding with the kids.
Right.
I will say that at one of my senior focus group last week, one of the students indicated that he had spent time on Khan Academy and improved his SAT score from last March to October by 200 points.
Wow.
And the other young man sitting beside him has already been accepted to Harvard. Out of the over a dozen seniors that I spoke to from across the district, about half of them plan to go to school in the state, and about half of them are looking at Ivy League admissions.
Great.
Hey, let's do a PSA with that student, and let's see if we can run that on TV. That's a really good news story. And
Yes.
But Dr. Pace, these data points too go to even the conversation you and I just had a couple hours ago with the realtors.
Yes.
And being able to talk to our community and our stakeholders about the information that they're hearing and how we're actually preparing our students for readiness in whatever the three areas are, whether that's being able to be accepted straight away into the military or into a college or university, or being prepared to go into the workforce. So understanding how we're going to continue to move those data points is really important for us.
Particularly because, as you said, people who are moving into our area from outside of Central Florida, even outside of the state, they're not concerned about an FSA score.
Right.
They want to look at something that they can compare to their community in Connecticut or California or Hong Kong. And that's an SAT or an ACT number. So that's where we've got to continue to move that needle.
Sure.
To Dr. Pace's point on that, if you think about FSA retake scores, typically I can tell you from my experience, they seldom break 20%. So if I failed the FSA and I go to retake it, a group of students, very few, more than 20% actually repass that. Last year, because of the board's direction with those at-risk seniors, 42% of the students that we gave the SAT in spring, 42% passed and made concordance scores, and that was out of 1,200 kids. And that was a huge lift. And if you tie that, you can directly tie that back to that, the credit recoveries and the proactive teaching that the teachers have done in the classroom, to that 4% increase in graduation rate.
Absolutely.
What you were just talking about with the student that's been accepted to Harvard and the 50% going in, are you seeing some of this as, and I don't want to get us off track, but is some of this based on the effort that we have with our college readiness team?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what Goal 1C is really all about, is opening up those doors and helping make kids aware. So I think it goes back to the board's direction for the top junior breakfasts, as well as our Got College partnership with Valencia, as well as the investment that you've made in college and career counselors at each of our high schools, the training that we've been able to provide and support for that effort. It's really about changing the culture. And even whether we're talking about the college acceptance rate or college going rate or graduation rate, it really takes a pre-K to 12 effort. That's one of the reasons why I think our gifted work in second grade to screen and identify more kids is a really important piece. The work that we're doing in third grade to reduce retention and keep kids moving forward on pace with their cohort, and the work that we're doing in middle school with the Duke Tips program and increasing those opportunities. And AVID is another big piece in terms of changing the culture of the district and the community to say, post-secondary, something is for me.
I think you hit it. You hit my last point there, Dr. Pace. Thank you.
We're bringing Melanie up to talk about 1D.
No,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm working on a Tallahassee issue that I'm getting calls on that we're monitoring, so. I
Mr.
apologize
Krummenbacher,
for
you
popping
handle
out,
whatever business you get.
But it's something that we're trying to work through.
Just keep the CRC from going crazy on me.
Nothing will
Yes.
happen to you. Tell me what you don't want happening.
I got several things in CRC that.
That's a whole nother meeting.
Yeah, we could have another 2-hour workshop
Sorry.
on that.
And let me just say, I'm glad, and I know we'll probably get there when it comes to community engagement and governance, but to see our CTE director as part of the leadership, our Lando group this year, we got the opportunity to present to them for the agriculture side, Osceola County Agriculture the other day, so I'm glad Mrs. Stefanovich is a part of that program.
I'm
And I'm
honored.
glad we have folks inside this district that are taking part of it.
We had a wonderful opportunity to showcase the work that's happening at TICO and really talk about the great things that are happening throughout the district with Leadership Orlando
Great.
last week, so.
We had their attention for over 3 hours, so experiencing their agendas regular to be in one place for 3 hours was pretty phenomenal.
That's great.
So we were honored to have them there. So this is 1D. This is expanding the STEM and CTE opportunities throughout the district. Let's start with the first goal, which is expanding Project Lead the Way. We have successfully expanded Project Lead the Way to include all schools over the past 3 years, with a strong emphasis on professional development, particularly this year targeted in on our elementary teachers. We've taken those middle school courses and we've made them year-long and embedded industry certification in them as well. And we've successfully implemented Semi-High-Tech U, which you've heard about previously, but we are one program away from being a certified partner. That makes us the first in this state, and I think the first maybe in the Southeast region, if not further in the U.S., to be a certified partner. And what that allows us to do is offer the Semi-High-Tech U programs without chaperones from the Semi Foundation. So we are fully certified in offering that as often as we would like, rather than waiting for their schedule. You've had several TICO/OTEC updates in the past couple of months.
I was
so-
going to ask, when Dr. Pace called it TICO, when were we making the change? Where
Tonight.
we all
It's on
have
the
to-
board agenda
where we
tonight
get-
for
where
official
we get
action.
slapped on the hand if we say TICO.
It's on the agenda for
Tomorrow.
official action tonight.
Okay.
Yes, you
What
will.
page are you on?
Well, I know it's on the
I'm
agenda, but I
sorry,
was
I'm
thinking
gonna
it
be
has
on
it
yours,
already.
it's
I
going to be
just
the
left
bottom of
Yeah,
the
it's
first
on the
page
end.
into the second page.
First page, I've got.
11, page
11,
11.
okay,
Sorry.
thank you,
I knew
thank
that
you,
they-
thank
I
you.
didn't. I don't
It's okay, it's
think-
okay, it's okay, Dr. Pace has
I'm
it.
swimming in my lane today. So.
And Dr. Pace knows what lane we're in, so it's all good.
Oh, it's like-
I'm good. So I was just going to go quickly because Mr. Ott has been here and he's provided you with very specific information about new programs and current enrollments. But I did want to emphasize that a year ago, January, we had 9 dual enrolled students from comprehensive high schools. And since my department has offered transportation, we've increased that to 151. And we're closing out add drop now. I think we got another 25, but I would need to confirm that once that add drop window closes. We have the 5 new programs, and we're excited about the articulation agreements we have with both Valencia and Herzing. I'm going to put a little plug in here. On the 27th of January, OTEC, when it was still TICO, was awarded the right to have the regional HOSA competitions. And we have 225 additional participants this year over what Kaiser had last year, so we're pretty excited to have that there.
Great.
Valencia threw their hat in the ring for it as well, and we won, so.
We have enough beds?
What's that?
We got enough beds?
We have enough of everything we need. We've gotten
Okay.
some things that we've borrowed. The team's been working pretty hard to make sure that we have everything to have the effective competition. You're welcome to stop by. I can get that information to
Do
Tanya.
we have a hospital partner?
We have multiple
Good.
hospital partners.
Great.
Mhm. So we continue to work on our National Academy Foundation rollout. We developed a 3-year, pretty comprehensive district-wide plan to include all high schools. We have 5 currently onboarding programs in the year planning process. Osceola High School is onboarding its second one. Poinciana is looking at finance, Liberty Health Sciences, Gateway is looking at IT cybersecurity, and St. Cloud is working on their year of planning for health sciences. Next year, we will be onboarding Celebration, Harmony, and Toho in that process as well. And we'll begin this spring to identify the programs they want to target in on. We're excited about that because with our local partnership, the NAF Academy agreement brings with it some national players that can be difficult to partner with otherwise. And then the final goal for CTE is expanding the opportunities for students to earn industry certification. Like I said a moment ago, we expanded the Project Lead the Way courses to be year-long. We've taken the middle school business courses and IT courses and expanded them into year-long courses and embedded digital tool certifications. Those students will be taking IC3. There is also a financial component or financial benefit to the schools for students earning those. We've really tried to streamline the professional development. We're taking a really good look at the curriculum that we're offering, particularly in the high school courses where we have a high yield of industry certification, and providing a more stable, more unified curriculum across the district and professional development to support that. In just some numbers for you, we had 141.7 FTE earned in 2014-2015.
This is in the middle of page 13. It's
Thank
pretty
you.
important.
Let's hope the math is right on that one, because I found some math errors in mine. So which was about $500,000 of add-on certification. That money is reinvested in the teacher's classroom. In 15-16, we had 1,802 certifications, or 255.8 FTE, with $1,050,000, about $50,000. In 16-17, we continued to increase. We had 2,143 certifications, 302.3 FTE, and $1.2 million earned.
So with this increase in certifications, are we tracking students who are graduating high school who maybe are not going directly to college full-time, either part-time or they're going into the workforce? Are we helping them with career placement, number one? And if we are we tracking their starting wages also?
That's interesting. It's difficult for us to get that sort of data, but with the way the WIOA law has changed.
Which data? The job placement?
To job placement and the wages. That is actually monitored, though it's starting to be more deeply monitored by the Department of Ed. The college and employment placement has always been monitored, and we've always done well with it. I want to say, now this is off the top of my head, 86% or 87% leave either going to college or in gainful employment. But through some heightened monitoring that's coming down from the federal government, the DOE is now doing data matching with the Department of Labor to try to figure out where things are falling. Aside from, SurveyMonkey and sending postcards to people, it's really hard to track that kind of data at my level.
When they're graduating, are we doing any? So let me back up. So are there employers coming to us specifically saying, we want to interview your students who are graduating with certification X, and are we going back, well, in order to allow you in to do those interviews, we're looking for a starting wage of Y plus?
Our secondary students do participate in the job fair that takes place at now OTEC in the spring. We bus them there to meet the employers who are interested in hiring, and if they have industry certification.
But are we screening those employers to make sure that they are offering a livable wage
Yes.
with benefits?
Yes. And most of those employers sit on our advisory board, and I'll be frank with you, I'll use the construction industry as an example. 2 different advisory boards decided to raise their entry-level wages because, 1, they weren't getting the type of qualifications that they were interested in, and 2, people couldn't continue to work for them. They were investing in these employees and training them beyond entry level, and as soon as they'd get that little bit of training, they'd jump over here because they could make a little more money. They realized that if they don't pay $12 or $14 an hour, they're going to continue to have this cycle, and so that's just some education that we have to do across industry.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the market demands will educate those folks
Yes.
better than anything.
I think it's important to note that in just 2 years, we've doubled the number of industry
Absolutely.
certifications earned. Melanie described her job the other day for the Leadership Orlando folks as workforce development, and that truly is what she and her department have been absolutely committed to in partnership with Dr. Fretz, Mr. Allen, Dr. Reinhardt, Ms. Respis, in terms of what are we doing to help kids, prepare kids for the future.
Is CareerSource a partner?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I just left a meeting with her, with my contact there who
Good.
was here.
Great.
We had lunch together, absolutely.
Did they get the check?
It was bring your own. I do want to point out that last year we had 860 students. There are 2 weights in industry certification, a .1 and a .2 in the FTE world, and those certifications that are weighted a .2 translate to college credit for students. And we had 860 students earn college credit via industry certification. So if they go to somebody in the state college system like Valencia, they can present their certification, and if it fits in with their major in the track that they want to do, they can accept credit for
I
that.
just want to go back to something you said. Toho is partnering with us in some regard, correct? Toho Water?
Not with TICO, we are working on a pre-apprenticeship program with them.
Okay. So we don't have that in place yet.
The employment demand isn't enough for us to build a secondary level program, but we can certainly do it through the means that we have at TICO, and if secondary students aren't interested, then we can dual enroll them.
Thank you.
No, if you're done, I do have.
Yeah, I got something.
Okay. I guess my questions, comments will probably have to gear more towards the, since I've been on the board, I've been a proponent of kind of an increased agricultural education. And I know that, I've had some conversations with Dr. Turner, the Dean of Cows at the University of Florida. I know you and some of your staff have. And I know there's a lot of opportunities out there. We have Valencia with the
SALSA program.
SALSA. I know they don't like to call it an articulation agreement, but that giving those kids the prerequisites, and a lot of these kids could never get into the University of Florida, with just strictly academic, but because of those programs, because of the SALSA program, we're trying to get those kids in the university, identifying some needs that the College of Ag has, but also they're identifying some needs within the workforce, within food science, environmental sciences, and you've been to those meetings. So I'd certainly like to see some more of that happen. That's a personal goal of mine, is to see some more of those kids, given the opportunity to go in that direction at the high school level, to understand more about what's happening at Valencia with the SALSA program, and to understand that the agricultural field is maybe not overalls and chewing on a piece of hay and wearing a straw hat and standing in the middle of Kansas somewhere. That there's a lot of
It's a high tech. It's
very high
very
tech,
high tech.
and there's a lot of demand in those industries simply because of some of the stigmas that we see. So I'd certainly like to see some more, and I know we're taking steps, and I know it's a slow process, and I know you're busy, and all these things are great, and that's why I hesitate to say a little bit, because I know all these things are great, but I certainly, that's I guess the privilege of sitting in this seat right here.
Right,
Is that
understood.
I would certainly like to see some more of that expanded. And I'm not, to be honest, I'm not a fan of the traditional agricultural programs. I think that there's really a need right now for that to change, the old kind of traditional ag program. I think it should be geared more towards the high-tech STEM area. So I know it's hard sometimes just to say, oh, ag and it's traditional and all these things. I'd certainly like to see us move more in that direction, but I still believe the FFA and 4-H partnerships could do a lot of good, because I think they've identified this sooner than the education system has identified that they need to kind of move and change directions.
And that's where you hit it, because we're bound by our frameworks and our benchmarks. But
Correct.
what we've been doing, and I have 2 staff members who've been working on it, is how can you embed those engineering components into the curriculum frameworks that we're tasked with until they get that 3-year cycle, and we can get on that committee and really revamp them the way that they need to.
And I know and I know that work is being done, so I appreciate that. But I'd certainly like to see that continue and expand it, because the University of Florida is saying we need the kids,
Right.
and we have, and the industry is saying we need the workforce, and so let's provide that. I think there's a lot of opportunity for kids that maybe haven't normally thought of the College of Agriculture as an option.
I think we also need to work on educating career source. They dictate a lot of what we are able to do.
Okay.
And when you look at their list of high yield jobs and high need areas, you don't very often see the agricultural world represented. And so I think that as you're meeting with those types of partners, and I will do the same, we need to make sure that those are hitting those lists.
And let me know how I can help anyway. I mean, who do you need to be in contact? And I see this more as a high school STEM question more
Yes.
so than a CTE question.
Right.
So, Clarence?
Bear with me just a minute, because I got to kind of give some background. When House Bill 7069 got passed last year, one of the reasons it got through was they agreed to put roughly $80 million back in for the governor's economic growth funds and Visit Florida. And very pertinent to this conversation, Today, Governor Scott visited Manatee Technical College, and now the college will be awarded the first grant from Florida Job Growth Grant Fund. Last month, the school board of Manatee voted to accept $201,500 for equipment. So I don't know if we applied for any of that this year. There is, I think the deal already in the works for him to get at least that same amount next year for his job growth grant, and education and workforce training is a piece of that. We need to look,
Absolutely.
see if we can, I can forward that to you.
Would you please, because I'm wondering if it came out through the DOL or the DOE?
DOE, it came through the Department
Okay.
of Sissy
Maybe some
Proctor.
nice food science equipment.
DEO, I'm sorry.
Just
DEO.
worked on a list of that today.
Yeah.
Sissy Proctor's where it came through, and the Osceola County has actually applied for 2 in Neo City, and looks like one of those may fall, but it's a much bigger piece than this. But there was an interesting piece to that in the requirements where it really referred to counties and municipalities, not school districts. So-
That's, if I remember correctly,
But
that
that's
was
an
part of
interesting
the
one, how this one
challenges.
fell into here. So
Is that-
somehow it did, if the first one, and he's, in his press release and everything, he was there and he's very proud of it. But, so.
Sure.
And
We'll
you noted
certainly
he
look
said
into
it. We need to look
not
at-
DOE, right?
D-
Economic
DEO.
opportunity.
Yes.
DEO. I said
So that was
DEO.
one of
No,
the
you said it
topics
right.
that I
Yeah,
was
I-
I'm sure she caught it.
Yeah. So.
Good. Great.
Anything else?
No, and thank you for all the work you're doing.
Sure.
Awesome.
Melanie, this was text to me. Give me your phone number and I'll text it. I don't know how to forward it to you if I don't text it.
Say it on here on the record.
Just write it down. I forgot
Your
what.
address for the record,
Give me your
please.
number, and I will forward this to you.
And when you're done, I'll need your social security number
Yeah,
and date of
and
birth.
preferably your bank, so we don't have to look for them.
I'll just give you my husband's number, then you can take it all with you.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
All right, that brings us to 1E. Mr. Allen?
Yes, ma'am. So, Board, I'm the owner of 1E, which is Improving Collaborative Processes. So this strategy is all about strengthening collaborative processes throughout the district. It's our deep-seated belief, and we know it's also grounded in research, that our ultimate service to students is enhanced when we work cooperatively and maintain a collective responsibility for all of our kids. So as you can see from the rating sheets, the team overall feels very confident about this strategy. Both of the district and the school sites working together instead of isolation really has become pervasively our way of work in Osceola. And as you guys know, the professional learning communities, or PLCs, is really the impetus of this strategy. So all teachers across the district are engaged in professional learning communities at school sites, with the expectation that they plan together, they learn together, they set collective goals for their kids, they share ideas and resources, develop common assessments, and ultimately share the responsibility of learning for all of their kids together. So new this year, under the direction and guidance of the superintendent and chief of staff, Wednesday afternoons have been completely dedicated for professional learning communities to conduct this business. So now collaboration time is consistent throughout the district, which then allows for the teaching and learning team, our resource teachers, and school staff all to be out in schools and really trying to roll up our sleeves and support and give guidance to professional learning communities as we can and as certainly needed. In addition, staff has worked with OCEA to devote 2 planning periods a month. So in total then, that's 6 times throughout the course of a month that within the teacher hours, within the teacher day, that we conduct business of professional learning communities. So if I can draw your attention to the bar graph on the bullet point sheet. So what this represents is data that every collaborative team...
Page 16?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Page 16. So what this represents is each collaborative team throughout the district, 3 times a year now, utilizes a document that we call our 7 stages of a professional learning community, and they self-rate themselves as to where they are. So much like we were talking about proficiency scales before, where students know exactly where they are in terms of their learning and what they need to do to get better. So this document is much like a proficiency scale for students. So last year, at the end of the year, 61% of our collaborative teams were at stages 5, 6, and 7, and those are considered high functioning. That's where we want to be. Our goal is 75% at the end of the year. Not that the other stages are bad, it's just a matter, it's the progression through, and we know just like sports teams and business teams that teams are dynamic, circumstances change, and it's it happens where they move up and down of where they are on that continuum of performance. But by the end of the year, what we want to do is be at least 75% of stages 5, 6, and 7. We are in the process right now of collecting mid-year data, and by February 2nd, we'll have that, and we can tier support for our teams out in schools that way. So I've got some exciting news that we've really been working on this endeavor for the past 4 years of becoming a PLC district, particularly in the last 2 years under Dr. Pace and Dr. Fritz's guidance and vision. We've come quite a ways. We actually have several schools that we feel are ready to apply for model PLC status, which it's a distinguished award. One school actually has the application completed and is just getting a couple pieces of evidence together to submit to Solution Tree, which is...
Which schools are those?
That is Horizon Middle School.
Okay.
And then we have a couple other schools that we feel are ready for the application process but just aren't quite far along, as Horizon Middle School is. But we're really excited about this. It's really a distinguished accomplishment if accepted, and we will keep you posted on that.
Do you know anybody that used to work at Horizon Middle School by chance? Yeah.
A few, yes, sir.
Yeah, sure.
So are we going to be able to track or, find the correlation between a model PLC school and high performing,
That is the ultimate goal. We were just talking about that, the three of us, before we came down here, as a matter of fact, this morning, because that is how you ultimately determine whether it is a high-functioning team, did it correlate and go to the end user with the student achievement results. So that is to be seen. We do see it in some pockets,
Okay.
absolutely, across the district with certain grade levels and content areas. Our goal would be that everyone, yeah.
So the whole concept is grounded in research. It says that when you've got a team that's high functioning and well together, then student achievement does increase. Just anecdotally through like our meetings with principals, with Dr. Fritz, when we start breaking down and looking at different grade levels and different teams, we see that trend certainly come to light.
And that is something that the assistant superintendents and Dr. Fritz are discussing with principals as they come in for their mid-year meetings. And, looking at their iReady data and other specific data points and talking about what's going well and what's not, and what can we do to strengthen the work of that teacher team, because that's where we know we're going to improve practice and learning.
Strengthen it right now. That's the key. That's why our plan is so different than other plans. It's fixing the problems as they occur. As they tell us they're occurring, we're trying to fix it right now, not wait.
And finally, we really just wanted to point out that that you really set the tone for this strategy. It would be very difficult to carry out the spirit of collaborative processes without a high-functioning collaborative board and superintendent. So the three of us just wanted to let you know that it's much appreciated and certainly does not go unnoticed.
Mr. Wheeler gets all the credit.
I second that.
Okay, that brings us to 1A, right?
Very smart board members.
Moving along.
You're more than welcome.
And as always, we will have spent more time on goal
And if
one,
you-
not that it's more important than the
Well,
others, it's just more
that
detailed,
was
but we
gonna
do
be-
need to be mindful of time.
It is 3:10.
Right.
So, and I know there's a lot of people in this room, and I'm assuming each one of these teams is coming up.
Or has
So
had a part in the plan.
so do we have kind of a framework now? This is our last goal one.
Mm-hmm.
Are we gonna say, how many beyond that? How many presentations beyond it? And I want to be brief here.
It's 4 or 5.
We'll go through all the goals, but it'll be quick.
And it will be quick. Okay, so you've got to get time down. Okay.
So I'll start right now.
You
1F,
have to know.
I can do it. 1F is new this year, and if you think, well, what's 1F? We just followed all the academics. Think about fundamental, that how are our students functioning? Are they safe? Are their needs met? That's what 1F, caring, learning, environment. And if those needs are met, they will do great in all the academics that we have. Jumping to page 19, some of our data to share with you would be our discipline. If our students are out of school, they're, on out of school suspension or recommended for expulsion, that's really going to hinder a lot of what they learn. First semester recommendations are down 19% as they were last year at this time. And likewise, the discipline events overall, anything that might have led to a recommendation or less, is down 20% to date as we were last year. A lot of work has been going on at the schools, lots of discussions. The next page on 20, we're looking at the social emotional, our collaborations, that's kind of in the middle of the page, with agencies to provide free group counseling and counseling to students who have arrived to Puerto Rico and don't have funding at this time. Any of our cooperative agreements with our outside agencies to provide counseling and therapy, we have a component in there, they've got to give us pro bono, some for free services. And right now they are doing that. A lot of our students, if they don't qualify Medicaid and their parents are right at that cusp where they'd have to pay for it, but the insurance and the monies don't allow them, the pro bono comes in. So they're stepping up to the plate, and we have agencies asking to join. So I want you to know that. Great. We have a $3 million grant we just received in October. It's funded for 4 years from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, known as SAMHSA. And that is expanding our current services and really putting an emphasis on parents and linking them to services so they know what to do when their student is having some issues and they're not getting the therapist there at the school or what have you. So that will continue.
I got one real quick. I appreciate the fact that there was a mention of there's a lot of pro bono services being offered right now by outside agencies. If you could get that information to Dr. Pay so we can thank them, I think that's important. That I'm thrilled that they're doing it, but I want to let them know we appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
And then on the last page, 21, down towards the bottom, this is looking at our physical health, our health services. Lots of data to share. We've got down towards the bottom about 3,000 students, high school students that were trained in hands-only CPR. We want them to help other people if it ever comes up. Next on the eye exams, as of today, I got an increase. So when this was printed, I got addition. Good. We had, where it says 730 eye exams, it's now 742. 12 additional eye exams were done just by this afternoon. And where it says 741 pairs of eyeglasses, well, now it's 763. 22 more pairs of glasses were given that they told me today.
How do we get more eye exams done? I gotta believe we've got thousands of kids who can use it. How do we get more?
How do we get more?
Yeah.
Well, we can do a little screener. Our nurses can do a screener, and then if they're at a certain level, then we ask our free, Orange Blossom to come and do screenings.
There's a state agency that does this, isn't there? There's a group, Mark, I don't know, Mark was here, they came in, they gave a presentation, they were a business partner of the year. Is that the same group?
Yeah, Orange Blossom, yeah, they come in and do this, no, that's the dental, I'm sorry. Our health, which ones are ours? Oh, we have two, Vision Quest, and there's two of them. And I know of Vision Quest, and there's another one that does our eye exams for students, and then they produce the glasses.
Right. I mean, I remember a few years ago, I met the woman who we were recognizing was a business partner of the year.
Right, Becky England.
Right, and she said, we can do more. And I said, great, let's do more. So they were anxious.
Well, we are doing more every day.
Okay.
And we try to capture truly at the beginning of the year so they have those glasses to start. Right. So the fact that I got these stats today tells me they're still doing. We've got kids coming every day of the year that come in. So we capture them as much as we can. But they also do Orange and Seminole, but they come to us first. So it says something that they're established with us and want to start with us first.
Okay.
But we'll keep on it.
Got it.
Okay. And then flu shots for the students that were administered at school, over 4,400. Then we have over 1,300 students just from 8 schools thus far where the Orange Blossom dental unit came to the school, and that's touching the elementary students, and sometimes that's the first time they've ever seen a dentist. Over 1,600 students received also dental sealants so that they'll do well, and that's typically done at 2nd grade level. And last to point out is that there was an audit done in December, and that's the second one I know of in the last 11 years. And typically, and they came from the Department of Health with the DOE and the Department of Health, our department local, and they check all our medical procedures that we do at the schools, what our health services policies are, our correlation with the Department of Health. And usually they give you accolades and then they give you some recommendations. We got no recommendations. So
And this is truly a compliment to Darla, to Elizabeth, to Mandy Kraft for their leadership in this area. Think about the number of new students that we've received since August this year, and yet they've been able to keep this up and maintain appropriate records and policies and procedures to get zero findings, which is very unusual from an audit.
Nice
So,
job.
Great job. Are you,
that,
okay, I made this comment back when we had our, and I hope we've changed this, where we had a number of kids we wanted to go into the military, right? Remember, and we had some discussion about that board where we said, we had this number, and I said, I would hate for us to go into a school knowing we're 25 kids down to meet our goal number to get kids in the military and be pushing kids that way that shouldn't. I think we had a brief discussion about that. I know I was pretty adamant about that. I'm going to say it again here on discipline and suspensions. If somebody needs to be suspended, I would hate to find out that we're not suspending them simply because we want to keep a number to look good. I don't mind what this number is if it's right. It's the same on the military. I don't care if we put 2 kids in the military or 2,000 kids in the military, as long as they've made that decision along with their parents and their own family, and we haven't pushed them in that direction.
I feel very confident that we are doing it because of the discussions.
Okay,
because
good.
of the calls that I received, Tom Phelps received, Sonia Dudge,
Great.
we got Dale Wheeler joining, and they're thoughtfully putting through it. I feel very, very good about it. And
Good.
there's no number per se.
there is no magic number.
No, I don't.
For
Like
there.
I said, I don't mind
We
what
just
this
felt
number
like it
is.
was important for us to explore other options and use suspension truly as what it's meant to be.
Right.
A last step, or the only step that makes sense because of the level of severity of the incident. But to look for other ways that are more educational in terms of helping to change the behavior, as opposed to just simply punishing the behavior.
And I think that's great. It's just one of those things, I hate putting a number on that, because then it seems to me like, hey, we've got to beat 19% next year.
No.
Or we've got to get 800 kids in the military. I just don't like that.
Right. Well, we'll give you true, accurate numbers, I'll be honest with
Yeah.
you. And I can tell you, since we've been back, second semester sometimes tips it up a little bit. Kids are
Sure.
So.
It's fine. I understand.
Thank
Thank you.
very
And
much.
congratulations,
Thank you,
by the way.
Yes.
All of that.
Thanks a lot.
Fantastic.
Board okay? Do we need to,
Good job.
ready to keep going?
Yes.
Goal 2,
Rock
talent
and roll.
management team. Step right up, pull up some chairs. So we're now looking at page 22 of your packet.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're just, right now, just receiving information. We're not really going to go ahead and have any other type of discussion on these topics.
I hope we'll have time for the board to give us some feedback.
But we may not, given the time. So,
And maybe
I may be
board, and
confused
maybe
about our
Mr. Wheeler,
workshop.
and I know Tim's
This
not
said
in here right now.
2-4.
I definitely wanted to bring
Yeah,
up,
Ricky,
Well,
listen.
We do not have a
Oh, we
facilities
do not
workshop
have
today. I was
facilities.
misguided, I apologize.
Okay.
What
it wasn't on my calendar,
Wait,
but I
what
wasn't
about
going to
me?
say anything.
I'm just so used to
I was
having a
gonna get on the
facilities
front.
workshop.
Yeah.
So
So
Speak
that's
up,
great.
please.
Ask some questions and do your thing.
we could run longer than
well, I mean, do
4.
we want to
Yes.
bring up discussion or topics on this, on section 1A through F now, or bring it up later? Nobody's going to leave, right?
Nobody's going to leave.
All right. So go ahead. We're going to go ahead and benefit from momentum. You all ready? Begin.
All right, well, we're here to discuss our talent management strategies and where we are at this time. And I'm going to start off with Lizette. She is our strategy leader for 2A.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am pleased to share with you some highlights from the bulleted list that you have in front of you regarding Goal 2A, or Strategy 2A, I should say, which addresses building leadership capacity at all levels. The first progress point I want to highlight is actually the first one on your list, under the 2A key activities. This addresses the instructional rounds that we are now in our second year of inception, which they are the embedded professional learning opportunities for all of our assistant principals and principals. We take the groups into classrooms, they see real-time teaching and learn from that opportunity. So this is a way that we strengthen instructional leadership for principals and assistant principals. They go and after observing the classroom, they look at the instructional strategies being used. They compare that to our instructional framework. They use a rating rubric based on Marzano's evaluation format. And for many of them, this is also an opportunity for them to look at effective practices and take them back to their own building. We also embed a mini lessons, like a mini professional development session into the rounds, and they are focused on different topics. This month, in January, we have our rounds focused on ELL instruction, primarily because we want to respond to the recent influx of students from Puerto Rico. For us, it's very important to offer additional support to the schools as they're enrolling the non-English speaking students. So we are collaborating with the multicultural department to offer a professional development session in January on ELL strategies. And this will touch every principal and assistant principal in the district. So if you go down your bulleted list, I'm going to talk about the third bullet that we're very excited to share. We had our inaugural ESET 2 conference. ESET stands for Elevating and Celebrating Effective Teachers and Teaching. We invited 2 teachers and 1 administrator from every school to attend our district's first ESET 2 conference just held last Friday. This is a conference that was planned by teachers for teachers, and it is all about celebrating the teaching profession.
Were they paid to attend?
They did not pay to attend. We actually were able to secure funding sources from a variety of.
We paid for their
During their
substitutes.
workday.
The substitutes were paid.
Oh, okay.
They were there because instead of in the classroom. So it was a work day for teachers. I'm sorry, I didn't
It's okay.
catch your question. We secured funding from a variety of sources, including local and national business partners, some publishers, and a grant from the Gates Foundation. And that allowed us to pay for the substitute teachers so that teachers could come to the conference. We also paid, of course, for the facility and the conference materials. Our focus for this conference was on high-quality math instruction. So I'm going on to what I'm going to call either the first bullet on the next page or the 7th bullet altogether. And this is something we are also very proud of. We're officially thrilled to announce that the Operational Leadership Academy has been established. We held a PSS Leadership Fair back in November 13th at OHS. We had 55 participants attending, and as a result, 41 of them, they are considered current or aspiring PSS leaders. They applied to continue building their leadership capacity. So we are going to establish this career ladder for the professional support staff with the purpose of establishing their capacity to be future leaders in one of our PSS areas. So this cohort is going to be participating in monthly professional learning opportunities. The sessions are going to be provided primarily by Valencia College. We have established a partnership, and they will be providing different sessions. They're professors from either the Peace and Justice Institute or the Continuing Education section will be teaching the courses. The first one is coming up very quickly. It's on January 29th. And the professional learning focus is principles for how to treat each other. So I'm going on to the next bullet, which is the 9th bullet altogether, or the third one on your second page. This is an important bullet because it is sharing with you how we are continuing an ongoing support for newly hired teachers. We really value our new teachers, and we're offering them ongoing professional development. The second session was just offered in November. It was about brain-based research, using brain-based research to engage all students. We had 65 teachers that attended. You could see some of their comments there on your list. This is how we support our newly hired teachers to enhance their classroom instruction. And each workshop session has been very well attended, and we continue to receive feedback from the teachers. We also seek out their feedback, because every week, the new teachers who sign up for the Tripod survey platform are asked different questions on input. And one of the input areas that we want from them is ideas for presentation topics for future symposiums. And we have actually embedded some of their ideas in the upcoming session on January 25th. For example, using instructional framework to differentiate instruction was one of their requests, as well as ESOL's strategies and classroom management. The final list bullet I want to highlight is actually the very last bullet for 2A. And this is talking about our instructional pipeline, the Aspiring Leaders Academy. Last year we had our initial fair for aspiring leaders, and from that group we had 90 who signed up and said we want to continue learning and we want to continue building our leadership capacity as instructional leaders. So in September, we had our first session and the second one in November. So we want to continue focusing on building strong, the instructional leadership pipeline. And through these offerings, we know that we are developing the instructional leadership for our future leaders through this academy. So in addition, though, we've added something this year. We are providing the learning sessions, but we also have our partners in curriculum and instruction. They have taken one of these aspiring leaders under their wing and have contacted them for conversations, providing guidance and encouragement so that we can truly have a group of future instructional leaders ready to go as soon as they complete all the requirements. And that is my strategy. Thank you.
Great. Now Sonia's going to continue with strategy 2B and talk about some great things that we've done with recruiting, hiring, and the retention process.
Okay, so the first bullet point I wanted to highlight is actually bullet 1 and the district-wide effort to assist individuals displaced from Puerto Rico. The district participated in 10 welcome orientation and recruitment events with a focus on individuals displaced from Puerto Rico. A total of 52 employees from Puerto Rico have been hired as of January 11th, and this number continues to increase weekly. The totals were 32 teachers, 12 support staff, and 8 substitutes. These events also include our efforts at the Welcome Center at the Orlando International Airport. Staff from the entire district participated in those days, and there was a total of 30 days spent at the airport by district staff and school staff. The next item I wanted to highlight is our efforts to help retain teachers through passing of the general knowledge test, and that is bullet 4 on, I believe, your second page.
Page 26 in the middle.
We had 44 teachers participate in a district-sponsored general knowledge test prep session which focused on the math section of the general knowledge test. We partnered with Kern Jones Consulting, and these sessions went through December, and we're now awaiting scores from these teachers. Many of them took the test over winter break, so we're waiting on the scores to come back. It's about a 5-week waiting period. Also, we have been working and talking with a company called the Learning Liaisons, who their sole mission is to help teachers pass Florida certification exams. They provided us with 5 free sessions for their online workshops, and so we're tracking those 5 teachers to see if this is something this district wants to invest more time on. Also, the University of Phoenix has offered complimentary general knowledge test workshops, so that's another area that we're going to see how our teachers do with that, with those sessions.
And so what we're really doing is to say who participated in Kerm Jones, which is primarily a content-based preparation approach, compared to who is successful after they've participated in Dr. Ampel's approach, which is more about test-taking strategies to see which makes the most sense for us to invest in further.
So there's a total of 44 that participated in the Kerm Jones. How many do we have that actually need to take and pass the general knowledge test?
The list this year is well over 100 teachers.
Who need to take it for a second time?
They need to take it in order to be eligible for reappointment, to pass it within their first year of employment according to the law.
So these are people that have a bachelor's degree but not a
Right,
teaching.
there are career changers.
How many people, I guess my question is, how many people do we have that we're waiting on the retest? Don't they get 3 times to do?
They can take it every 31 days.
Until-
However many times they
But
can
when
pay
is,
for it.
in the first year,
It's very
which is the
expensive to take
temporary
each time.
certificate time?
Right.
So they can take it every 31
Every
days
31
for the
days,
first year?
Correct.
And Sonia, doesn't the cost go up every time they take the test
There's
too?
an additional $20 added to the original fee
Okay.
each time they redo.
Do we have kind of an idea of how many we have in that pool?
Well, the issue with
Who are
that is
second or
that
third or
the teacher would have to let us know that they have
Okay.
taken it. The state no longer provides us with a copy of school reports. We can look up in the Department of Ed certification system and we can tell if someone passed, but if they didn't pass, they don't list anything. They don't even log it in. So we have to depend on the teacher to provide us with a score showing they took it and didn't pass. And we don't always receive those types of score reports.
Okay.
So we have over 100 that need to take it in their first year in order to be able to earn their certification. We have 44 that participated in Kerm Jones. The balance of those people are just going it on their own and not utilizing the resources that we're
Or
providing
perhaps they're
to
going
them.
the University of Phoenix route.
Right. Okay. And then what's our fallout rate for first-year teachers that don't complete the general knowledge test, that then we're not able to keep and employ? That was a big conversation piece for us as a board and superintendent.
Last year it was 60 teachers.
60, right?
Did
Can
not get
I assume
retained?
that's 60 out of 100? 60 out of, what do I?
From the very beginning of the year, it was probably around 160. So each
So that's a
month.
pretty high percentage.
And that's why we're working with the legislative priority to see, I mean, we don't want them to not have to pass any type of test.
Sure.
We just want them to expand the time frame,
Right.
which would be like the teacher temporary certificate, a 3-year time frame, and give them that time frame to pass the test, because there's so many things that they're facing the first year of teaching. It just seems unfair to us that they would make them have to pass this test that first year.
Right. So, we've adopted that as a priority. It's something that's important to the board. That's why I'm asking the questions, because this is important information that helps me and helps us articulate the point.
I was
We're
not
talking to legislators.
in favor of that, but certainly it is a board priority, so
But this is important information
It
for
is.
us to understand as we're communicating with legislators about why we've made that a priority, what the fallout is, and what we're doing at the same time, try to help people be prepared to pass this test in the first go-around, the first year.
Part of the challenge that you have is that first year is so overwhelming
Right.
that no matter what we do to remind teachers, get signed up for the test early, go ahead and get signed up for the test, take it now so that you know where you stand. Some of them will wait until the last minute to actually take the test for the first time or close to it. And then for some, if they're just graduating from college, they've got college loans, they're starting in a new place, they've got first month, last month, all those types of things that have been upfront costs. They're waiting to acquire the money, the cash that they want to spend on this type of stuff.
How much does it cost to take the test the first
It's $200 the first attempt and $220 for each additional attempt.
time? So it's not just another $20, it's
Right.
$200.
Yeah.
I got a question. If we're paying for kids to take the SAT, which I think is great, why aren't we paying for our first-year teacher's test? I mean, if it's, we could use it as a retention tool or as a hiring tool, and it's in our best interest to keep these teachers.
The avenue that we've taken so far is to instead try to offer the additional test prep free. So we're not charging the teachers who came to the Kerm Jones consulting piece. You see what I'm saying?
How much is that usually to pay for it themselves?
$295 for UCF.
So between
Per person.
So between the training and the test, we're looking at $515 total per person. 220 plus 295 is 515. So we're doing that, so we can't do that.
I mean, it's interesting to explore. There's probably some, something in the way of doing that, I would think, but I don't know.
Well, the reason we're not paying for it is because we don't want to pay for it.
Yeah, sure.
Or reimburse them if they pass it.
Well, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
And we have done that with like our ASD subject area exams, and our foundation, the Education Foundation, had been a great partner. But I think the funding is no longer available to help us with that.
That was for autism
Right,
courses.
for the
Right now,
SD.
the title grant
It's
provides
helping with that.
for reimbursing of subject area exams in order to add additional subject to a certificate,
But not general.
not general
I
knowledge.
I don't know how many, I don't know how many teachers are passing it on an annual basis. So number one, you got to know that number, know how big that number's going to be in terms of what it would cost. But I'd like to see how many teachers are passing that exam, and so that way, if we considered it, or asking an outside source like the foundation, we know what the number is versus, just asking for a blank check. So, but I guess I'm looking for, I wouldn't do it without a recommendation from the superintendent leadership team.
160 is 32 grand.
Hmm?
160 teachers is 32 grand.
That are passing.
No, it was 100 passing, so it's 20 grand.
So, okay.
As a superintendent at this stage of the game, my recommendation would be that we continue to try to support teachers in preparing for the test, and to do so, though, thoughtfully and carefully by looking at who's giving us the best results and investing in that program to support them as they pass it, because that's where we've really been missing. That would be my recommendation at this stage
As
of
a
the
competitive
game.
employer, though, I can't help but ask, are other districts paying for and/or reimbursing for passing the test? I don't know if they are.
To the best of my
I haven't-
knowledge,
I
not for the
haven't.
general knowledge exam. I do know that some other districts reimburse for the subject area exam for hard-to-earn subjects, like ASD. But we can certainly explore that, and Tammy can look through her
So if nobody
partners.
else is doing it, and we did do it, though, what kind of an advantage does that give us from a recruitment perspective?
What is it? I mean, look, if you told me that was going to get us a higher level recruit and
Right, no, I
more,
understand, right.
teachers, that's an easy 32,000 to spend. But certainly, I don't know if that moves that needle.
I don't either. I don't either.
I've got a question. If you're complete.
I had one more
Okay,
item on
please,
retention.
please
but-
go ahead.
Okay. And my last item I was going to highlight is on retention initiatives, and that would be bullet 6 in the strategy 2B packet. One of the areas in which we were trying to retain teachers is teachers that are wanting to leave at the end of the year. So the district has partnered with Richard Finnegan with C-Suite Analytics to provide training to our school administrators and all administrators on conducting a stay interview. The stay interview is a an avenue for the administrator to start a discussion with the employee to find out what their intentions are, if they plan to leave at the end of the year or if they plan to leave within 3 years. It also opens the door to get to know the employee better. As of right now, over 1,900 stay interviews have been conducted with our instructional staff. The annual goal was set to improve instructional year-end retention by 20%. The 2017 to 2018 retention percentage was 89.62%. Other ways that we are working on retention is by during the monthly administrators meeting. In October, we worked with the school administrators on conducting stay interviews. In November, realistic job offer scripts were worked as table talk activities. And in December, during the administrators' meetings, it was the start of working with them on the Human Capital Manager Professional Development Series.
Is there a year, like first year, fifth year, eighth year, where there's a big exodus, or are they all kind of the same? So one of these, I've done this for 3 years, I'm getting out, where you see a huge bubble or not?
Well, it just depends, and sometimes it really even depends on what county's offering what compensation at their step. So if a lot of people know Orange County is offering a big bump at step 6, then they may jump ship for that. We have started, especially with our work with the Urban Schools Human Capital Academy, we are looking at our first year teacher data and keeping like cohorts. So we're looking to see, and I'm keeping data each year to see what's happening to these new teachers every year.
So the only thing I would add is that every study in every industry shows that people will stay at a place of employment because of personal satisfaction more so than leave a place of employment because of finances. Mm-hmm. Even though we all are looking in our lives for opportunity to move up a ladder to whatever extent, the stay interviews are a very important piece. The relationship with the administrative team and the teachers can't be stated any more clearly how important that is, and understanding the reality of who our staff is, what their goals are, where they're wanting to go with some of the pieces we even talked about earlier in this strategy, or these strategies, is really important. It's very rare people will solely leave somewhere for money. Right. They will stay because they have the personal connection, the relationships, and they buy into the vision and the mission of the organization, and they want to see that through. And so that's something for everybody in this room and anybody that's a part of this process to understand. And turnover, as we all know in this room, is extremely expensive for us. So everything we can do to make sure that we're providing an opportunity to show value, respect, and care and appreciation for our team members is important. And everything we do to make sure we understand where they are and where they want to be in their professional journey is incredibly important, so we can come alongside and support them.
And that's really been the focus of our training.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we've actually said that at our administrator meetings. We may not have all the money in the world, but there's one thing that we can control. It's our relationships and the personal relationships that we build.
Yeah.
Lee County, I think I went to a presentation they made on some of their interviews about just job satisfaction, leaving, staying. They've done some great work. You might reach out to them. I can't remember their names. The two, did you guys go to that one? That seminar that they did? You went to that one?
I'm sure we can.
And they did some really good work. Now, they have a person on staff that is full-time, and everybody in the room kind of laughed because none of us can afford to do that, but Lee County can. But they had some really interesting data on how they were, what type of satisfaction, and back to Tim's point, was keeping folks there. The second question I have, I know Mr. Thacker asked for this several years ago, and we did he asked for the recruitment plan to be presented at a school board meeting, and it was great. And so are we still going to Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania?
We still are, and actually we did bring forward a recruitment plan. I think it was a few agendas, a couple agendas ago.
Yes.
But we have been looking strongly into our statistics and looking at where our new teachers are coming from and how we're getting them. Mm-hmm. And one thing that we discovered is the people that are applying to the early opportunities pool that we actually have out there right now, those are the people that we're actually hiring down the road. So why don't we really look strongly at those people and start spending time with them and building relationships to try to see if those truly are the people that we are going to have on board. So that's something that we're working on this year.
And I ask because I see the University of Alabama on here, I see University of Texas San Antonio. Does it make more sense to concentrate just geographically on states like Alabama, Mississippi, the Carolinas, East Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, more so than the Midwest, in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan? Are there some issues
We've
there?
actually had more success in places like Michigan and
Oh, I know we have.
Right. The teaching colleges there are strong, and folks are willing to come to Florida because there are jobs.
And I really don't know of the job fairs that they are having out in those areas. I mean, I guess we could research and try to find, but it seems like the up north, the Pennsylvania, the Michigan, they get together in big consortiums and work together, and that's where we get the most bang
They
for our buck.
graduate way more than they can hire, which is.
No, and I understand that.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if there's a better thinking about retention. If I could
Right.
drive home in 8 hours instead of have to fly
Right,
or
right.
take a whole day trip. So if I lived in Atlanta, like I could drive home in 7 or 8 hours, right? Maybe
Well,
with the
that's
traffic 9 or
right.
10, but you understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Is that better than the person that lives in upstate, or lives in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan or wherever?
It's really about going where they have more candidates than they have jobs. And in Atlanta, they can scoop up
They got it, okay.
everybody.
And then
that
maybe
they're
that's the case,
graduating
that's
and more so.
what I don't know, and I know you guys know that,
Yeah.
but I just wondered about the geographic piece and maybe if that made more sense.
We're still sending recruiters, but we're not sending, normally in the good old days, we would send 3 to 5. I may just have Greg White going with a suitcase
She's
and some
presenting the
flyers,
master plan.
and he's on his own, but he is building those relationships, and he is talking to people. We're not handing out the conditional offers like, candy at a Christmas parade. He's talking to people, he's making and building those relationships and seeing if they want to come here.
Because certainly John and I want more people from Alabama.
Well,
Here in-
I love people from Alabama. I've got a great one that works with me
No,
every
but I
day.
just thought about the geographic piece, but I do appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
this winter, you get people from Pennsylvania, New York, and they're ready to go.
Right. Yeah.
Anything else on TV?
No, I'm good.
All right, let's move on.
So 2C is creating a district-wide culture of feedback for professional growth. I wanted to just highlight some areas there in your bullet point list. If you'll take a look at the second and third one, talks about the Cambridge Effective Feedback Professional Development.
28.
This is 2C,
28.
page 28. We actually started the Cambridge Effective PD last year with our principals, and we had really good feedback, how about that, on the workshops from our principals that participated. They felt a lot more comfortable in their conversations with teachers, and they requested that we extend that this year to our assistant principals. So in October of this year, we had all of our assistant principals and all of our new principals participate in a session with a consultant where they learned effective feedback practices, and then went out to the school and observed a classroom teacher, and then came back together with the consultant present and provided feedback to this teacher. The consultant provided feedback while they observed. They also had opportunities to do some role playing as a part of that. Now, this month in January, actually this week and starting next week through mid-February, we're going to have our principals that participated last year continue their professional development with Cambridge Education again. This time, though, it's going to be a little different because now they're going to be observing a classroom teacher, coming back together, and then providing feedback. The principal will provide feedback to a volunteer teacher after their observation, while the consultant observes the interaction between the principal and the teacher and provides feedback on their feedback to the teacher. Make sense? So it's an opportunity for them to really practice and hone on their feedback skills. Another opportunity that we've had has been the National Association of Elementary School Principals has a principal mentor certification, and we have 5 directors from the Teaching and Learning Division that are participating in that 9-month program. So they're participating with a cohort from throughout the country, learning about mentoring, effective mentoring skills and feedback practices. And they're utilizing those skills that they have learned to mentor our own novice school level administrators. And then the last one I wanted to bring to your attention is our Beyond Accountability project from the Gates Foundation. Again, we started this project last year at Highlands Elementary, and it has been very successful. And so this year, we've expanded that also to additional schools. We have Deerwood, Thacker, Denjon, and Harmony that have been added on. And this is a project where the school had the opportunity to utilize the inquiry process to work on a problem of practice that is going to specifically align the instructional framework to effective feedback practices. And those were the highlights for 2C.
I get some questions. About how long does someone have to be a dean or an assistant principal until they can become a principal?
The P&P program is typically 2 to 3 years, and then we require a year of experience. So typically, an assistant principal will have been an assistant principal for at least 3 years.
Okay, so now the next question is, and this is for the entire team up here. You know, recently, we have hired a high school principal from Oregon, from Hillsborough County, from Brevard County, and I got no problem looking for the best talent wherever we, just like teachers, get the best talent wherever we get it from, we bring them in and we make them part of the family. I'm totally good with that. But with that said, what things are we doing to build our own bench that hasn't been brought up, I guess? Because right now we've got, we had some openings that you filled, Dr. Pace, you and I talked about it. We still have one. So what are those? And I know that, being a principal is a tough job. And the higher you go up, well, high school principal, in my opinion, is the toughest job anywhere. And I have a great appreciation for it. And it takes a certain kind of person to be a principal at certain kinds of schools. Meanwhile, what are we doing, how are we developing these great leaders?
I think all of the things that they've just talked about, starting with the teacher leader program, and in particular, the work that the district level staff is doing to engage those folks on a personal level who applied for our Aspiring Leader program. Our NISL training that we're providing is strengthening capacity. Our P&P program has been revamped and redone. Our principal training itself has been revamped and redone. Our assistant principals are engaging in more training, and we're working on our operational staff. So we've really taken a multi-pronged approach to get there. It just doesn't happen overnight, particularly when you're talking about high school principalship.
I get it.
Being a principal anywhere is hard, elementary, middle, high school. But think about it, you have more elementary candidates because you have more elementary assistant principals. So that leads into more elementary candidates to be principals. Same thing at the middle school. And it's not that people can't cross levels, but it's very hard to be a high school principal if you haven't been a high school administrator. So that's something that we're working to grow.
How many years do you have to be an educator, a teacher, before we allow you to be a assistant principal? I know it used to be, I want to think 5 years. Is it still 5?
Was it 5 at one point? It was 5.
Typically now, again, it's about 3, because remember, they have to work on their master's degree, which is often a 3-year program.
Is that adequate? Is it enough?
I will tell you that most, in my experience, this isn't all, in my experience, they need a little bit more time in the classroom to truly have the big picture in order to move in an administrative role successfully and effectively, and also to earn the credibility from their peers. There's a little bit of that street cred that goes along with this.
I'm a believer in the 5-year program, I can tell you. But I'm also a believer in, I think it was Coach John Wood, that, give me a whole lot of talent over a whole lot of experience any day.
Well,
I do believe that, but I do also believe in the value of experience and street cred.
I don't think we need an arbitrary number, so to speak, because it truly is going to depend on that individual.
Sure.
And the school culture, all of those things have to come together to be the right fit.
How do we fix the model where you've got some really great teachers, sensational teachers, and they specifically go into administration because they know they're not going to make enough money for what they want to do as a teacher, and meanwhile, the further away you get from the classroom, the more money you can make. You've got some great teachers who became administrators, not because they didn't like teaching, strictly because they needed more money for whatever reason. And I understand that life happens, but how do we fix that where if a great teacher is a great teacher and they want to, where they can make the same money as an administrator and stay in the classroom if they're performing at a high level, not just to stay there? I mean, because it's sad.
You have to come up with a scheme, with a pay scheme.
You have to be able.
You mean where we give the highest performing teachers $50 a year more than we give the average teachers?
I don't think we have a regulatory environment where we could do that.
And I hate to think regular, but there has to be something that makes sense, because you've got great teachers who, again, are going up the career ladder for money in a lot of cases when they should be staying in the classroom because they're great teachers.
I mean, am I wrong to make the assumption that because of the change in the way that the state that we pay teachers without the steps, and not that I don't disagree with what they've done in some regards, but without having a way to get from 40 starting to 62 or 65 to finish at 25 to 30 years, without having a way to get there, you are pushing people out of the classroom and forcing them to try to become I guess not a dean because it's the same thing, but an AP or a principal. There's no incentive to stay in the classroom. You've taken all that away. And so
What you have
I don't
to
want
get
to. I know that's a deep
yeah,
conversation.
that is a very deep conversation, probably longer than we have time for
Correct.
today. But it really requires a true career ladder approach, and probably some sort of grant funds, like a teacher incentive grant. Part of what we're doing now rewards teachers for being mentors and doing more. And it's got to be bigger than that to make it more meaningful, and we're not there yet.
And I agree with Mr. Weisser totally on what he said earlier about job satisfaction. But really, when people are making long-term plans and long-term goals, and they're thinking, how am I going to pay for my kids' college? Because I was a teacher when I started. I had no kids. Now I'm 10 years in. I've got 2. I've got 3. You're telling me that I'm going to make the same salary that I made 10 years ago? It's really not a good way to operate in an industry. And I know this is a government-run system, and I'm on a little soapbox right now. But it's really not a good way to operate. We don't do it in real estate. We don't do it in any. We don't do it anywhere else. We allow people to grow and succeed and be paid for that. We don't allow it in education. And
Performance-based.
Hey,
and I'm fine with performance-based.
Leave
over
the realtors out of this, okay?
Yeah. But as you get better at being a realtor, you obviously have opportunities to make.
And it's not a knock on anybody. I mean, we're doing the best we can with the system we're told to plan. I think that we need us, especially. I mean, we're the elected officials. That collectively with our other colleagues on the state, we've got to start having this conversation, because we're not losing good teachers to other industries as much as we're losing them to the classroom, because they've got to go up a career ladder to make that extra paycheck.
Well, I think we've lost people just coming into education generally.
Oh, sure.
I mean, these guys have been telling us that for 3 years.
You got teachers talking kids out of being teachers.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, if at all possible, I think we probably need to try to wrap up goal 2 and move on. I don't know if the board wants to take like a 5-minute break.
Board, I'm good. I've been taking my own break.
But these guys,
I'm okay.
I think maybe they might like it.
Yeah, sorry. You guys, does anybody here need a 5-minute break?
Okay, we're going to transition then to goal 3. Thank you. Goals 1 and 2 obviously take the most time. Goal 3 will take a little bit more time, and then goals 4 and 5 typically run through fairly quickly, because we definitely want to provide a good 15 to 20 minutes of time for the board to give us some feedback, okay?
And we have until 5:25, is that what you're saying?
We have until 5:25. Goal 3 is going to be expeditious.
If we're going to go till 5:25, can we take a 5 minutes?
Surely we won't go till 5:25.
Okay, so we're going to take 5?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, if that's what everybody wants. Sorry, all you guys moved up here, we're taking 5.
Oh, yeah,
I was
well,
fine.
unless she's running out.
I went to the bathroom. Let's go. was good. Mr. Weishaar is on the phone, so he'll join us in just a
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, goals 1 and 2 took a little bit long, but it was important discussion, and goal 3 will be pretty in-depth, but not nearly as much, and then goals 4 and 5 are pretty quickly. So I think we'll still have an opportunity for some input. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah and the team for goal 3.
Good afternoon. For fiscal responsibility, I know you guys have been on this journey with us since the initiation of the strategic plan, but I did just want to take a few minutes just to think back to where we were 2 years ago as far as our finances here in this district. If you remember, that was the first year that we had a balanced budget after several years of using reserves after the economic downturn. So we were really struggling operationally as well as the status of our capital plan. If you remember, our deferred maintenance costs were just skyrocketing, and we were really having a hard time getting our hands around those deferred maintenance issues and our capital needs, especially as we continue to grow. So when we talk through the strategies that we've implemented and the successes that we've achieved in just in this short period of time, you can really see how that's changed our district from a financial perspective. As you guys know, our 3 strategies in fiscal responsibility, 3A really focuses on operational efficiencies and making sure we're maximizing our dollars to put back in the classroom. And Jose will talk to us about what we're doing there and our achievements in that area. And then 3B focuses on our capital efficiencies, maximizing those. And of course, 3C is our alternate revenue sources, which we're doing a few new things in that area as well. So I'm going to turn it over to the team to talk you through what we've done over the last 6 months.
Good afternoon. So strategy 3A is about evaluating and prioritizing the use of our resources to impact instructional priorities. One of the key activities in that strategy was to implement a 3-tier bell schedule to generate some savings by consolidating bus routes. So far we've implemented a standard 7-hour day for all of our schools so that all of our schools have the same number of instructional minutes. We're currently postponing the implementation of the tiered schedule until the 2019-20 year, and that's so that we can get some stakeholder groups together and involve the community in the whole planning process before we move forward with that. In regards of managing our healthcare costs, we've expanded the services at the Center for Employee Health to include primary care, pharmacy, urgent care, nutrition, physical therapy, workers' comp, DOT physicals, and drug screenings. We know that over 6,000 patients have visited the center since it opened, and that's about 64% of our health plan participants. The most recent numbers show out-of-pocket savings to our employees at $1.2 million. So those are costs they would have otherwise incurred if they went to their regular physician. And our next step in that area is to implement the financial penalty to reduce the number of no-shows and make more appointments available to our employees. As you know, we did receive designation as a choice school district, and then we honored over 2,800 choice applications for the 2017-18 school year. From a budgetary perspective, that allowed us to look at our instructional allocation models and how we're staffing our schools, because we no longer have to meet class size at the class-by-class level. We meet at school-wide average. So with revising the instructional allocation models, we were able to reduce 79 positions in the current school year, which generated $4.7 million in salary savings. Those savings were reinvested to balance the budget. We provided salary increases for employees and also added support in other areas, such as guidance and our ESOL programs. We also implemented a new staffing review process, which involves the chief of staff, budget department, human resources, teaching and learning, and the school principals. The principals come in and discuss their staffing, their schedules, and any specific needs to ensure that we're allocating resources where they're most needed. Through that review process, we looked at our instructional allocations again after the 10th day of school, and we're able to recover 10 positions, which was $600,000 in salary savings. But those positions have since been reallocated, and we've added 58 more positions for the additional growth coming from Puerto Rico. We also worked with DOE to adjust our February FTE growth factors to account for some of that growth from Puerto Rico and secure some additional funding through the FEFP. Earlier, Dr. Reinhardt mentioned the increased participation in AP and increased success in that area. That also comes with additional weighted funding. So for the AP, IB, and AICE programs, We've increased weighted funding in those programs from by $562,000. And then as of this morning, we know that we've received 1,624 choice applications for the 2018-19 school year.
And that'll close the first week of February?
Yes.
Yes.
We do continue to honor parent requests.
Sure.
That's when the official piece closes, and we'll make evaluations about lotteries and things.
Just real quickly, Dr. Pacer, are we going to maybe have one more kind of push out here in the next couple of weeks to say, hey, it's closing?
I'm on Facebook Live the first of next week.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman? Or-
Mr. Thacker.
I'm sorry, were you finishing?
I have one more.
Oh, okay, go ahead, because I got a question. I thought I wasn't sure if you were done.
No. So one new activity for this year was to implement more district-wide operational efficiencies. We did establish a new school opening committee for Tohopa-Kalaiga High School and Neo City Academy. So we meet as a team to look at the FF&E budgets and their school startup budgets and make sure those resources are being allocated appropriately. We're implementing new white fleet procedures to establish some control over our vehicles and some recommended replacement cycles for the aging fleet. We'll be implementing periodic review of our federal funding uses. So we'll be meeting with our federal funding managers, just making sure that we're leveraging all of our sources when we're going through the budget process. And then Stacy and her team in purchasing are evaluating opportunities for centralizing some of our procurement of commodities and services that are common among our schools and departments. And then finally, our budget cycle for 2018-19 actually started when we returned from the holiday break. We're preparing to submit our FTE forecast for next year, and then we'll be meeting with this board on February 6th to look at your priorities for next year's budget.
I will tell you that just in the last week or so, we have received our Survey 3 information from the state. We'll go into this obviously in more depth at our February the 6th meeting. But overall, from the second calc to the third calc, our enrollment increased by 2.93%. That's the highest in the state. But Jose has also done some good work for me just today, and based on where we were at the final calculation, so in other words, at the end of last year to now, or at the third calc now, our total unweighted FTE increased by over 6%. There is a significant portion of that was with the virtual school, Florida Cyber Academy, but the majority of that growth is the district's growth.
Does that qualifies us in at the 5%? No.
No.
The 5% was a change
I was just reaching.
from our projection to what we ended up with in December.
Is it 6% per student?
No, that's not
No,
funding.
it's-
That's just student
Unweighted
numbers.
growth.
Okay, okay.
Unweighted FTE per student funding actually went down.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. But there was no proration across the state. It just
Yeah.
didn't come to us. Okay?
Good afternoon. I'm the strategy owner for 3B, maximize efficient use.
Oh, sorry. Let Mr. Thacker ask his question for 3A.
Or actually, it's really for the board, but, I mean, I'm happy that we've saved our employees $1.2 million out of pocket for the healthcare center, but I don't know what y'all think. I'd like to see, and maybe at a workshop where we can spend 30 minutes really talking about the overall cost of what it's costing the district, and if we see a turnaround on a drain as opposed to starting to get closer to a break even. And I'd be very curious what our partner, Florida Hospital, is doing to offer suggestions on bringing those costs down. I don't know what y'all think, but.
No, maybe tonight at our board meeting at the end, maybe we can add that. If you make a note, maybe talking about some dates for
I'll
an
bring
added
it up.
workshop.
I would suggest a workshop separate from our budget workshop, although that is a
Yes.
very important part of our budget, but I want to make sure we have adequate
Yep.
time there to talk about the overall operational budget, but then we can certainly follow up with that as a part of our budget planning process, a workshop specifically about the Health Trust Fund and the Health Center.
And Tanya, if you wouldn't mind, also remind me to talk about the addition of a workshop, if it would be the board's pleasure to discuss maybe some innovative ways we can, in paying teachers.
A bargaining meeting, so we could set some strategy for you.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Mr. Clinton.
That's quite all right. Strategy B, 3B, maximize efficient use of capital funding. This is how we stretch our dollars. There are several activities that I'd like to highlight. The first is in the energy area. Why? Because we spend over $14 million a year in energy costs. So whatever we can do to shift those operational dollars to other areas certainly behooves us as a district. So happy to report that we have created an energy management department, and we've recently landed on a energy management software called School Dude. It's a software that's used successfully by several other school districts. So that's the starting point where you have to measure to know where your use is. We'll be able to, from that point, develop data trends and see where our big users are and where those opportunities are for future savings. As Sarah mentioned, just in the short time that our sales tax has been passed and collections, less than a year in collections, we've already achieved a lot made a lot of ground. We've completed 4 Priority 1 chiller projects at Kissimmee Middle, Horizon Middle, Gateway High School, and Celebration K-8. So not only do we now have efficient chillers, dependable chillers, but we also went after the energy rebates. So we continue with those projects. And moving forward, we are looking forward to establishing an energy policy that would dictate run times as well as temperature set points. And we'll be bringing that to you sometime soon. The next area is developing our maintenance benchmarks to measure effectiveness of operations. Why do we do this? To reduce impacts on education. If you think to a time where you were very hot or very cold and it was hard to learn. So that's why this strategy is so important, to ensure that we're addressing our maintenance work orders in a timely manner. Not just the HVAC, but the electrical, the plumbing, everything that ensures that we can provide educational spaces that are conducive for good learning. The next strategy...
Would that include, Mr. Clinch, would that include some of our things we do, such as maybe, and I don't know how much we do in-house or, I know it out-house, like on, let's say, mowing, landscaping, painting, some of these other things. Is there a way that we can maybe explore looking at some opportunities to push that out of
Yes, sir,
the
we
district
are.
and looking? We are going to look at those kind of
Yes,
things.
in addition to the preventive maintenance schedule, which dictates systems, HVAC, and lighting, we're also getting envelope components, roofs, painting, et cetera, on a schedule, so that every 6 to 8 years, we're painting a school. And we're making sure that that envelope is maintaining good integrity. As far as the mowing and that type of thing, our maintenance department and operations department is looking at various strategies to either keep that in-house or to outsource.
Sure, maybe
as
it's better
needed.
one way or the other. I'm just saying, I don't know.
Actually,
I'd sure
we've
like
been
to
doing
see
some
it.
exploration and are looking to bring probably some more of that in-house right now when we start to look at what we've been spending and the quality of work that's been done for some of our landscaping contracts, particularly on our athletic fields and athletic maintenance. In my previous experience, that was done in-house and really allowed us to maintain the quality of the
In-house
fields.
at the district
much
level
more
or the
efficient
school level?
At that district level.
Because I know we've had trouble saying it's in-house, but then having it at school level.
Right. No. Mr. Cavaney and Mr. Shatera have been working together to explore options for that, along with Mike Clark, to see what makes the most sense and how we can do it most efficiently.
Okay. Just remember when you're looking at that, and I'm sure you guys are and will, is it's not just the labor cost, it's the equipment cost, the maintenance cost, the ongoing expenses that go with taking on an operation like that. We're basically building a business within our operation, and we need to be mindful of those recurring costs that sometimes people don't always anticipate.
Right. We're also, though, mindful of the fact that because of some quality and quality control issues, there have been times when we really need to resod a field that could have been prevented had it been cared for well.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And to that end, I just got to throw in, we recently did a turf field out at Celebration High School.
Thanks for reminding us.
That has been a huge hit. LSU used it to prepare for their bowl game, and What's nice about it, though, from an educational perspective is, at one time, that field was only used for games. Now you see PE classes on it, the marching band practices on it, kids practice. I mean, it's used over and over and over again. And to your point, you're not worried about the damage to the field. Is it going to be ready for this game or that game? It's durable, and everybody is using it. I see more kids using that field now than I have 10 other fields put together over the past 10 years.
And I just would like to say, I know that some of the things, I mean, going back to some of the maintenance cost, that a lot of those folks, those private companies, can actually employ people cheaper than we can. They can do the job. Sometimes it has more to do with the oversight and the management piece than it does if you allow sometimes these private companies to do lesser work and get away with it.
Right.
If you have a strong enforcement team, you can manage it that way.
I've seen since I've been on the board, we've had the same schools under contract come up over and over and over again because we keep hiring people with low bids. They cut the grass one time and you never see them again.
Correct.
Because they can't. They bid it to take 10 hours and it takes 40, and they said, well, I can't.
Yeah.
And then the next time somebody bids it at 11 hours. It's somehow.
Yep. And maybe it has to do with some strategies on bidding the projects and those kind of things. So,
The next strategy is expanding our pool of prototypes. So last year, we expanded our pool of middle school prototypes, and just recently, we've completed the expansion of the pool for the elementary school prototypes. So the next one we'll be working on is the K-8s, but that is moving along very nicely. And that's particularly important because it increases our flexibility across a variety of sites. So if it's a triangular or rectangular site, we have various options. We're not stuck to that one custom option, which in turn helps to reduce our costs as well. The last strategy I'd like to talk about is increasing our sales tax through the owner direct purchase. And this is where we become tax exempt for our material purchases. We now have guidelines in both our contracts for comprehensive and new school projects. For comprehensives, our goal is 20%, and for new greenfield projects, 30%. We did not have this goal in place at the time of Topotalaka High School, but we've been working on that since the inception of that project, and we are now over $1 million in sales tax savings, and that represents about 22%. You will soon be seeing a owner direct deduct change order coming to you to increase that to 28%. So we continue to go after every material purchase.
We look forward to that one.
Anything else on 2B or 3B?
Right, and I have 3C, which of course is exploring alternative revenue sources. And the first goal there is to increase our lobbying efforts. You know that we work with Olay and the legislature, but mostly you all and the superintendent have been spending your time seeking additional funds, flexibility, and support for those students displaced by Hurricane Maria. We continue to communicate those priorities, and I think Dr. Pace is actually headed to Tallahassee. The next thing is developing a marketing and advertising program. You are aware that we have stadium rights sold for $100,000, and I'm sure you've seen the digital ads placed on the district webpage through our advertising firm. In addition to that, to make sure that the advertising firm is going well and to just have continuous improvement, we have hired a coordinator of community involvement and a marketing coordinator in-house to ramp up that program. This person is expected to generate their own salary and beyond, just keeping the funds there. We also intend to use some of those funds generated from this possibly to sponsor student competitions, national and state level. And you know the foundation's kind of stepped away from that for the most part. We also are working on expanding our community outreach. You're aware, of course, of the great job that you all and the leadership team did reaching out to the citizens to get the sales tax passed in a very, very short time. But we also continue to inform the community about sales tax projects through a variety of meeting venues, as well as signage at sites like Lake Topekaliko. We, in fact, can report to the community that we've done $109.2 million in projects, or in the process of them, such as Michigan Avenue, Den John, St. Cloud Middle. And we continue those communication efforts. Probably our greatest part of this goal is we've contracted with a new provider for payment card services, which increased vendors accepting our credit cards by 20%. That resulted in $15 million worth of expenditures via credit card with an estimated annual rebate of $200,000 at this point. We've also purchased $63 million in laddered term investments to generate more interest savings. And of course, we continue to expand payment card and services and investment strategies.
Before we go on, I do want to take this opportunity to make all of you aware there is a copy of a letter inside your mailboxes in the school board office from Linda Champion's office. As you know, we have been in ongoing conversations with the Department of Education regarding our desire to build Michigan Avenue to our prototype size. As of right now, the news is not good, but that is something that Mr. Kruppenbacher is continuing to work. I'll be working with the Superintendent's Association this week. And it's really not a big discussion at this moment, but I wanted to make sure that all of you saw that letter before you leave today.
If I could just add to that, we met a week ago Friday to alert the governor's educational liaison, Mr. Clinch, and Rhonda came with me along with Joy Frank, the head of the Superintendent's Association, and superintendent from Santa Rosa County. I will tell you, at the course we're moving, Santa Rosa County attorney and I are both talking. We're beginning to look at the viability of litigation.
And
I wish I could give you a better report.
I was in Tallahassee last week and talked to Representative LaRosa. And he and I had a conversation probably a month ago on these issues. He was coincidentally meeting with the head of the education agency the next day or two, had that meeting. And basically the response he got was that they've done everything we've asked, and probably more than they would for anybody else. So.
Well, this could potentially create a stumbling block as well for the facility for Neo City Academy. So this is a much bigger issue than just the size and the student stations at Michigan Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
So it is something that we'll continue to keep you informed about. You can continue to have conversations with Mr. Kruppenbacher, but know that we are working the issue behind the
I have a
scenes.
question on Neo City Academy. Isn't that being paid for with impact
That's-
fees?
They have.
Doesn't matter.
They have taken an
That's what they told us in the last
interpretation that they now have, for lack of a better word, I'll use the word control, of any dollars. If we had Bill Gates walk in here today and say, I'm going to build you a brand new school, under their formula, they'd say, no, you're not allowed to accept the school.
Who at the Department of Education's been elected?
No one, and I think
Okay.
therein lies the first fundamental problem.
Okay.
Well, again, I didn't mean to get us off
Let's
track,
go.
but I did think it was important to go ahead and
This
make
is
sure that you were all
hugely
aware.
important
It
to
is
us.
very
Members of the
important.
board, the significance of this, if you take out what has been put in writing and extrapolate it, it will shut down all building. Don't think that we're going to somehow, it's going to effectively shut down building of schools here. The only good news for us is it replicates itself in every other county, because they're all beginning to realize, what do you mean? Santa Rosa's off the deep end because they went after all that private money and got it, and now are being told you can't use it to build. So we're pressing this. We're hoping, for lack of a better word, we can politically get them to realize that this is an overreach by bureaucrats and avoid the alternative that's a waste of money and tax dollars. But
We've grown close to 5,000 students in the last 6 months, and it got an agency telling us we're going to grow by 7,000 in 10 years. It's almost that simple.
Where are we at on the project?
I've been doing this for
Continuing
almost 16 years. I never seen anything
So
so
you tell me otherwise.
But it's also, we just built the first phase, not going to the
Well, this
second
goes back
phase.
to
That's really
68.
how we balance that, right? We remain in compliance, still get what we need, but we don't get fully what we want.
For Michigan Avenue.
Right.
yes.
Anything else for the team for 3?
Thank you.
Brings us to goals 4 and 5.
I want to bring you up to the conversation I had with Mike last week too on.
I do want to.
Sarah, Mark, good job. Dr. Stryker. Good to see you.
You as well.
How you doing? Good. Miss you to see you, Josh.
Anna, Bill said.
And that she fit on the backwards for us and done more than she would have for most of any other.
Okay. Dr. Stryker and John Boyd are here with Scott to talk us through goals 4 and 5. Ms. Schaefer is out of the office today.
Alrighty. Strategy 4A deals with communication, the value that education and educational professionals add to our community. The main thing here is the choice fair that we had. We had over 2,000 people who were in attendance at this year's event, and due to the increase in the crowd size, next year's event will be held at the Heritage Park. Moving on to activity 2, expand social media presence. The analytics for that are very good. The total followers on Facebook are up over 90%, Twitter over a third, Instagram over 56%, and LinkedIn up 83%. We're looking forward to the next year to increase the number of schools to 100% who have social media presence.
And as I mentioned, our next Facebook Live will be one day next week, and we're going to talk specifically about school choice. And as you can see, your electronic newsletters are getting a nice open rate.
Yeah, those open rates are really, really good.
So,
moving on to activity 3, celebrate a college-going culture. 2 things we'd like to focus on there: College Week and Osceola Scholars. We're going to expand in the future the Osceola Scholars to include military academies and appointments and fine art conservatories. And we're going to communicate to the district that College Week is a district initiative.
and this year's Osceola Scholars event is going to be held out at Embassy Suites. We already have CFE, the Federal Credit Union, has agreed to sponsor the event. So as opposed to having it at OXA, we've been able to expand that and make it even nicer.
Activity 4, great things are happening, and they certainly are. October of this year, the strategic plan update number 2 went out. Newsletter 3 is on its way after this stock take, and we're also moving forward with the Here Comes the Bus app, and the Department of Community Relations will assist transportation in marketing that.
How much longer till that's ready?
Here Comes the Bus is a little bit slower than we had thought, primarily because we're still struggling a little bit with bus drivers. As you know, we had 6 finish a class in December, ready to start in January, and then 4 people came in and retired. Until we have all of the routes covered, Here Comes the Bus app will not function appropriately because of splitting routes. So that's why we've slowed it down. I will tell you that all of the bus drivers have been trained. They know how to enter their stuff, and that part of it is going very, very well. It's just a matter of getting us to a place where we have reliable routes that we can then communicate to parents.
We started a bus driver training school on January 8th.
We did.
Right? How many?
Not quite as many as we thought, but there's another one that's going to follow, but we still have, Randy, how many is it?
15 people in that class, so if you do that average, expect to have enough.
Okay.
And we'll have another class follow immediately.
And how short are we now?
I'd say we're about 35.
35?
Here come the bus next year.
Every time we pick up a couple.
Quite possibly.
Lose a couple, lose one?
I'm still pushing, but we got to do it right.
Pick up 2, lose 3. Is that how it works?
Yeah.
And somewhere back in here, when we did the, we fired 28 teachers from Puerto Rico, if we hired, there was not a bus driver mentioned if we hired.
Yeah, there was.
They're in the
Oh,
support
was it?
staff.
It was like
Oh,
6.
Okay.
6 bus
I missed
drivers,
it.
I think. It was on.
Okay.
Awesome. Moving on to activity 5, foster a culture of care, respect, and success. Like to, yeah, page 38, sorry. We'd like to focus on.
Thank you, John, for moving quickly.
No problem. We'd like to focus on the tripod family engagement surveys there. We're getting good actionable data on that. For example, 56% of participating parents are saying that their school is either quite good or very good, and 66% are satisfied or very satisfied with the ways their school communicates with them. 80% of the parents feel welcome or very welcome at their child's school. And we're also focusing on numerous videos to tell our story. And one example is at ESET that was just on Friday. There was someone there, and there's a social media wall, and that's the type of thing that we're going to expand in the future for feature teacher and feature support staff, and identify other video opportunities for social media. That brings us to 4B, Activity 1, the
We
education.
had a very good following of our Teacher of the Year recognition, by the way, on Instagram.
Yes, it's good.
4B, Activity 1, Education Economic Summit. We're still, that's in progress. We're working on that. We have a targeted list of regional economic development leaders and invitees, and principal participation has been secured. All we need is logistics and to hold the event. Activity 2, the board member annual update. That is set for being held in February. The logistics and holding the event, all that's left.
This is to be State of the Education.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's just, we changed the name, but the sponsors are lined up, and that's what I understand is the status at this point, so.
And this year, our culinary arts program is going to provide the hot breakfast
Oh,
from
good.
OTEC.
Good.
That leads us to 4B, Activity 3, Legacy Club. Lots of great feedback there. Our elderly has responded to this very much so. 60 to 64 gets reduced. 65 and up get free admission to our events. Currently 70 cards have been issued, and the talk is out there, which is awesome. We're going to reach out to the Retired Teachers Association to expand it and talk it up. Strategy 4B, Activity 4, Community Schools. Moving forward with the homework diner concept in the future, securing additional funding through grant efforts, and that's being done with Leslie Campbell's assistance. That brings us to Strategy 5A.
Okay. Strategy Goal 5 is to cultivate relationships between the school board, superintendent and community to serve as a high-functioning district leadership team. 5A is to build capacity of district and school leadership. Activity 1, I'd like to commend you all for becoming Master Board certified. That is a rigorous training and certification course which you completed in December 2017. The superintendent will attend the Harvard Institute of Superintendents for certification purposes in May of this year, 2018. And I'd like to congratulate the Chief Business and Finance Officer, as she's now become certified in administration of school finance and operations, and she did that in December 2017 as well.
Yay, Sarah.
Sarah.
Activity 2, the school district has a large increase of stakeholders responding to the yearly school climate. This is something that we've been working on, the community at large actually engaging in surveys. From 2015 15 to 16, we had a total of 17,930 surveys completed. 2016 to 2017, we had a total of 43,094 completed. And this year so far, and we opened it in August and closed it in November for the Advanced Ed review, we had 69,156 surveys completed. Well over 20% of parents completed the surveys as well, which you have the percentages in your bullets, which is a great thing, and we're going to continue to do this. And in April, May time, we'll be reopening it, so we have a pre and post data to look at the surveys. All ELL schools have a task force has been implemented through all schools. Activity 3. Administrative poll on professional organisation affiliations distributed at Superintendent's Administration meeting, and the results are: in September we had 86 members, in December we had 110 members who are members of an organisation, and in September we had 111 local, state or national organisations. Now we have 132, and many of those people are on boards, or either the president, the vice president, or on the board of these organisations. Continued next steps is we have our advanced engagement review starting on the January 21st. That's next Sunday till the 24th, and we have been completing our preparations, and we're completing now. It has been really a team effort. this should be a 1-year preparation, but because of the new process, we actually did it in 4 months, but if you take away all the hurricanes and thing, we did it in 3 months. So the schools and the district have done a fantastic job getting us ready for this review, and I really feel like it's going to be a great review. So I just wanted to say that on record. I want to commend everybody in the district and all the schools for their work on this, because it was very, very intense. Any questions, sirs?
I got a quick question on your, on the membership in organizations, local, state, and national. I'm assuming a lot of these are probably professional organizations.
Yes, sir.
But you got the local organization have minimal participation.
That's something we're going to be working on.
Yeah, this is very, we talk about a profession of teachers that wants to be professionals and treat us as professionals. Part of being a professional is being involved. So it's part of, it gets back, I think, to Tim's comments of job satisfaction versus total pay. There's some things you can do that are quite rewarding, and
we're
not seeing that.
working on that.
Right now, that's just administrative. At this point, we just really got down to the principal level this year.
Okay.
And, we started last year, and it was really just cabinet, but this year we really pushed it. But to your point, there's a lot that we've asked our principals to do to be engaged, like with local Rotary clubs, and to be a part of those. So.
It's important, and people see the school district when they know those people, and they feel good when they know a principal or a teacher or AP sitting at a table with them, working on stuff with them. It has a very, very, very positive reflection on the district and the profession, I think.
Strategy 5B, promote excellent customer service at all levels of the organisation. Customer service training to share with all stakeholders standards and expectations. The superintendent communicated to all stakeholders her expectations for all employers on standards and expectations. We also did a Moodle course, was created in September, and over 3,000 employers have taken it so far on customer service. And we've also had training held for employers at the Ritz-Carlton, and we're going to also redo the training this year sometime. The date's not been announced yet. The Red Carpet School and Department Award to recognise outstanding customer service, that was introduced and rolled out in September 2017, and the deadline is the 1st of February, and we're hoping that all schools and all departments do this, apply to become a Red Carpet. We're going to have the community participate in judging for accountability purposes, and then in May 2018 the school board will recognise the departments and schools who have actually done everything they can to become a Red Carpet school. That's it.
Any questions on that, board? Dr. Pace, if you don't mind, and I know Mr. Soto had requested that he had some questions maybe from strategy 1, 2, 3, or 4, if we might take the next 15 minutes and isn't that what you wanted to do?
That's absolutely here, and obviously there's room for everybody at the table, but all of our team members
They're
are in
out
the
there.
room, and we're prepared to.
They can yell.
Yeah.
Any board members have any questions for anyone?
I asked all mine.
Mr. Soto?
Oh, yes, I do. On strategy 1, A through C, we're talking about a lot here in terms of the goal of improving student achievement. And we see that we're using a lot of, we're really focusing on ELA, we're focusing on the math. We're basically following what we know we're held accountable for by the state. There's a lot of other curriculum that can actually help us reach these goals. So let's just start, for example, with the math goals and starting early. I think that Dr. Fritz really was keying in on that if you really want to see an improvement on those numbers, Mr. Wheeler, the rest of the board, is that you got to work also early on. You really got to build that foundation in those 4 years and start there and get those students confident and used to not being afraid of numbers, and, and finding math as a way to excel. One of the things that we want to do is we want to invest not just on free things like Khan Academy, which is really good, but actually put in money. And there's things that we can do at the elementary level. One of those things that I brought up was after school. A lot of our students are in after school waiting to be picked up or things like that. And unlike the older kids that have sports and things like that help them, develop a lot of skills, with our elementary students, I was proposing to start a Domino's kind of program after school. And I wanted the support and the funding for that to come from the school district. Why? Because we fund sports as well. And for the same justification. One of the things is that we want to go ahead and get young minds interested and start thinking about combinatorics. And that's really what games like chess and dominoes do. They really help with with thinking, at least intuitively, about permutations and combinations and these mathematical skills that can be done in a very in a fun manner. So that's one of those things that are going along with, and that's a way to reach parents as well, because we got to keep on bringing the parent involvement in our schools, even if it's very tangential. Once the parent becomes involved, their attitude change from almost does a 180 as to how they respond to politically about public education. So that's one of those things, and I don't know how that fits into this. The other one is I brought up a couple of months ago, maybe not even that long, maybe a couple of board meetings, about curriculum that will help students at a very early time in dealing with news. And news that, because right now, our students are being exposed. Before it used to be print newspapers and what they watch on the 10 o'clock at 6 p.m. But now news is available to students at a very young age through electronic means. And it's becoming a lot more difficult now to ascertain what is information that you can use, in order to shape your opinion on how you contribute, what you think about things. That was that fake news presentation by Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Am I correct about that?
Yes, sir.
So I'd like to know what curriculum we could develop for that, or how we're going to fit that in. Starting like I said, students have access to this at an earlier age. We can't wait until they're 14 and 15 to start this kind of instruction. Again, this is the kind of thing that helps with student achievement. It really, really goes. It has to, because this is what private schools and schools with a lot of funding actually do. They do that. They bring people that know how to do these things, and they educate their students, and in turn, even the parents. One of the things that I am just extremely proud is how the journalism department in Poinciana High is able to consistently put out a very, very high quality print news publication. And you don't have to take my word for it. I invite you to go ahead and look at the quality of reporting, the topics. Board members, they'll love to have you for a visit. We should be having this for more of our schools, and offer this. This is the kind of thing that brings in reason, and teaches kids to reason when they're thinking, and more importantly, it doesn't shield them off from what's going on currently in our society, in our world, because they need to be prepared for that as soon as possible. Can't just be, we're not going to talk about these things, but when you're 18, go ahead and handle and deal with it. I've seen the results when that happens, because a lot of times it's not being taken care of at home. But here we have a journalism class that teaches English, grammar, research skills, communication skills, business skills, everything put together. And there's students that are benefiting from this in Poinciana High, and maybe a couple of other of our high schools. But if we could look at this program as a way to model other high schools and have this available, again, this is the kind of curriculum, again, into our strategic planning into our goals that we should be looking at including. Because this, gentlemen, does help out with the student achievement. It helps out with increased participation in our standardized testing for the College Board, ACT, and it just goes a long way towards a holistic education that we want to give to these students. I know that we're doing great. I love what I'm hearing. With what we have to do by law, okay? The standards that are put forth by the State Board of Education. Doing great with that. But you really want to go ahead and see those big things jump, it's these other efforts that cause that transformational change that we want reflected in those numbers. Not going to be just pushing and pushing on that, because we have just the nature of things just won't allow it to go past that. This is what the successful private parochial schools are doing at every level. I'm telling you, because I've been reading about this stuff. I read about this, I read at least 2 hours every day minimum. And a lot of it has to do with education policy and what's going on. So those are my comments as far as to section 1, which is, I'm not going to take up any more time in the other sections. But I would really like to see some of these things being implemented and the commitment, the fiscal commitment of the district towards these programs. Okay, and I want our students to know that this is available, and the parents that we're pushing towards this for their students. Thank you for your time.
Board, we have about 5 minutes. Is there any comment? Does anybody, any of the staff, make any additional comments?
I'd just like to thank, I'm not staff, but I'd like to thank everybody for how thorough you are, how concise, precise you were, how well organized you were, and that you were open to, the questions that were asked. And if you didn't know something, you didn't make believe you knew it. I appreciate that too.
Thank you, Mr. Soto, for your comments.
What did I say?
What did I say?
You're welcome.
You forgot that you said that you...
No, I know. I've got something really good, but I'm going to bite my tongue. I'm not going to say it. So I too would like to thank all the staff that worked very hard, and just with the graduation numbers, our score, on what the state requires us to do, I think we're doing great, and I want to commend all of you. I think our leadership team is top notch, and
indeed.
And so I appreciate all the work you guys are doing, everybody.
It's the direction of the board, so thank you. But I have a great team, you're right.
So with that, we will, anything else?
Nope.
No, we're all good? So we will adjourn our workshop, and we will have our school board meeting at 5:30.
Were you okay with the realtors and things today?